Give it a second for it to come up here.
All right, we're live. I see it.
Great. So as people kind of slowly start to come in, let's see. So our main goal for tonight was really we wanted to answer a lot of questions and actually like hang out in the chat. So I think all three of us are going to try to be in chat as much as possible and kind of pull things back. But obviously it'll take a few minutes for people to find this and come on in. But yeah, tonight I have Poke Knowledge and Echo Based Collectibles, and I will after this video is posted, I'll have links to both of their channels. Definitely check them out, subscribe and watch and support what they're doing as well. But yeah, these are two of my favorite people to just kind of hang out, talk about whatever's on our minds. It always I think leads to pretty interesting Pokemon market type conversations. And we love to do lives because we love engaging with the chat and seeing what's on people's minds. So let me take a look here.
Greetings from Scotland.
Oops, sorry.
Say greetings from Scotland. It's 2 a.m. there.
And just let us know like that sound is cool and you can hear everyone as we speak and all that good stuff too. Spray, clown effect, head Pokemon, Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah, so Sterling just said, "Grats on your first ed based PSA return." Echo, you want to talk a little bit about that real quick? Because I know.
Yeah, real quick. I did a video. So I subbed this. This is my first PSA sub ever. I think I sent it away end of last November. I just grabbed my first. I started with the first binder and just sent it. And I was overall happy. I mean, it's a childhood collection. So for being a childhood collection of 25 plus years, I graded all the hollows. Most of them came back in 8s, a couple 7s. And overall pretty happy with it. The only card I didn't grade was the Charizard because I sent all my first Charizards ahead of time. I expressed those. So I already had all those back from that set. I was overall happy with it. I did look over a lot of the 8s, and it does make me wonder if they do any sort of gatekeeping. Because there were a couple of those which I've gotten other 9s in that they looked just as good as the 9s do. I mean, it's really hard to tell sometimes. And I do always wonder if the people grading the cards do have any sort of prejudice or bias that, oh, we're grading first edition base now, we got to be like extra careful, as opposed to like, oh, it's a Stormfront card, who gives a shit? Like, you know what I mean? I've always wondered that. It's hard to tell. So I'm not disappointed. I mean, I have them back in my possession. I had no expectations going in. A year and a half ago, God, I almost forgot I even was without them by this point. So I was just honestly just happy to get them back more than anything.
I know a lot of people have been talking lately that kind of like the days of cracking PSA slabs and resubmitting them are kind of over. But I would say, with the exception of a card like that, if you really do have some good PSA 8s that are, strong 8s, possible 9 contenders, especially like first ed base, hollow, stuff like that, I would say at the $50 tier, those might be cards that you can consider cracking and just resubmitting, because I'm guessing you only probably have like maybe like 2 or 3 contenders. So that's like $150. Like,
so
it would only take one of those to make it worth it,
I thought about that, but here's the thing about doing that, and this might be a point for anybody else considering to do that. So when PSA bought Gentleman, one of the informational videos that was released on their technology that I'm convinced that at this point they've integrated that, considering the ex-president of Gentleman is now taking up the PSA side. I mean, he was promoting. So I'm assuming that they've fully integrated their technology, or if they haven't, they're doing it right now. Anyway, one of the videos was a promotional piece that said that they have the ability to individually identify every card and catalog them. So every imperfection, almost like a fingerprint, each card gets an ID, so that if you crack the card and you resub it, it'll come through, and when they scan it, it'll hit their database that card's already been graded, and it won't allow a regrade.
I think that's true, like maybe like a little bit more of the higher end stuff, but I don't think they're there yet, because just I saw that video too, and just the logistics of putting each card in there and scanning them, even if it takes 2 seconds, when you're
Right.
talking thousands upon thousands of cards, I just don't think they're doing that yet at scale. So I think right now you would still and this is just my guess, that you would probably still be able to sneak some cards through.
It'd be definitely interesting to do. I might consider doing it, at least as a test.
Yeah, I
But
mean, it'll be like $150 test for you.
yeah,
If you get one of those cards goes from an 8 to 9, a first ed base hollow,
sure,
you're talking that pays for it right there. That's
sure.
an easy win.
Yeah. I've
Make a
been
good video too.
It would. I've been on a little cracking craze lately and cracking a lot of CGC to send.
Yeah.
Um, it would be fun. I might do that. Yeah.
And
I'm really, if anyone else actually, if anyone else in chat has any recent, um, if anyone in chat, I'd be curious, has anyone in chat cracked and resubbed a recent PSA return and gotten a higher grade out of it? Not a CGC to a PSA, but has anyone cracked a recently graded PSA card and successfully upgraded it to a higher grade? I would be curious to hear from people who have either tried and failed or tried and succeeded on that one.
yeah, that's a good question. I haven't, because all my recent submissions have all been like, $100 tiers and
Yeah,
stuff, and you don't, but
right.
that's
I've
a
been
good
think
question.
yeah, I've been thinking about that. I know a lot of people, like I know Dan does a lot of CGC to PSA, but I don't know if anyone's out there doing PSA to PSA recently, to try and get higher grades. I haven't heard of anyone successfully doing it.
I've always been curious, like how many of those first ed, PSA 9 Charizards don't actually exist. I want to say it's like
Huh,
close to 700 in the pop.
yeah.
It's way less than that.
Oh, uh, let's
Yeah,
see.
it's definitely an interesting, lots of interesting ways to try and make money, or find that, for lack of a better word, just like that arbitrage isn't quite the right word, but just finding things that it's like, this is not purely not investing. It's just seeing an inefficiency in the market, and trying to sort of take advantage of it.
Yeah.
I was
Well,
talking about another one today with someone, who was asking my opinion on what to do with booster boxes, basically, and should we open them, should we break them down, how should we sort of sell them, what's the vintage ones, that sort of thing that Z&G did forever,
Right.
grading, um grading the lights, selling the heavies as heavy. Should you still do that? Does that still work? Those types of conversations. Yeah.
well, I think it would be tough grading lights right now. I want to, when it was $25 a pack, and you could just, literally send a third of your or 2/3 of your booster box, like, yeah, $25 a pack with the premium, it was worth it. But right now, I think the lowest pack grading tier is like $100, right?
I don't know. I do know that I heard that it wasn't taking that long from someone, but I don't grade packs.
Yeah,
So,
I got a pack submission, 8 packs under the $25 tier since April. So
oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
So for those who are just starting to come in now, ask us your, Pokemon questions. We're really going to try to engage with the stream as much, with the chat, excuse me, as much as possible tonight. Some people commenting on my background. Yeah, I've got some stuff back there.
Yeah, can I ask you, Jake? Jake,
Sure.
is that a troll? Because from like left to right above your head, You literally have like Fusion Strike, Battle Styles, Chill and Rain, Evolving Skies. Then we'll ignore the one next to Evolving Skies. Then we
I
go.
took that one for you.
then we, then what is that? Is that Darkness Ablaze and then Evolutions again? Oh no, that's Sun and Moon base.
That is,
And
yeah.
then it's
Sun
and the
base.
Evolving Skies, yeah.
I like the DBZ
Yeah.
boxes. Those are cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of modern Pokemon there. Yeah, I have some vintage Pokemon. I don't put my really expensive stuff out.
I keep all my really expensive stuff in cardboard boxes. I'm pretty boring.
Yeah, same.
What are
I
the three
also-
packs? If Jake, if you went like this with your finger up, what are the three packs on the top shelf?
The which ones?
It's like a white box. I thought it was like a display, like a white display with three
Is
packs.
back
Yeah.
here?
Yep, right there. Top. Yep,
This?
right there. Exactly.
Those are Power Rangers.
Oh, nice.
Oh, neat. Okay.
So you Power Rangers, Harry Potter, Weiss Schwartz, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic. There's some Flesh and Blood. All the shelves go all the way back, so I do have a lot of doubles and triples and quadruples of the boxes. And yeah, these are the types of sealed I like because I like to open occasionally and dip in. And
I'd like to see a Power Rangers opening. That'd be cool.
yeah, no, there's
That's neat.
a lot of fun cheap stuff out there. Got some Mega Man, and then I have a bunch of old Tops boxes like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mario, Donkey Kong, and I have a bunch of blisters. I have a bunch of old vintage Wansea Pokemon, some packs, and then I have a bunch of DBZ score blisters.
They're cool.
Yeah, and GT.
Jake, do you got any of the old blisters that have the Pop Series 5 packs in it? It's like, it's like I want to say, forget what blister it is. It's like
I know what you're
blister, and
talking
then
about.
on top of it's like that extra pack, and it's a Pop
Yeah.
Series 5 one. It comes as like a added on free bonus kind of. Instead of a promo card, there's like a Pop Series 5 pack.
I don't have any like super unique sealed stuff. I'm not a big sealed collector.
I want to say it was like, no.
I remember seeing them in the stores. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I
That's
forget what
Ryan has.
Yeah. That would be a fun little thing to open,
Yeah.
I kicked myself for Pop Series 5. I kicked myself.
No one knew. I mean,
No, but here's why I kicked myself, because I stopped running that Pokemon League at 4. So I had a stack of extra 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s, but I stopped running League right before 5 for no reason other than like I just closed the league up, went back to college or something that year, and yeah, I remember going through all my stuff and looking at like when I pulled all my stuff out of storage and like looking at like what's hot, what's valuable, and I was like, oh, people really like those Espeons and Umbreons. What series were they from? 5? Oh, of course. Like,
Yeah.
Of course they were.
Dude, once in a while I'd go on eBay and I'd be like, all right, let me type in Umbreon Star, just Umbreon, like, I didn't even do Umbreon Star. I just do Umbreon, and then I would do 1717 and just see if I could get lucky. Now with the release of Celebrations and that Umbreon, forget about it. It's like not possible. Now it used to be like search result would be like
Yep.
2, and it would be PSA graded
Interesting.
cards for thousands of dollars. But now my results are like 3,000 results. And
Yep.
I'm like, well, that's a thing of the
That's
past.
funny you say that. One of my favorite searches back like so many years ago was just to do like Pokemon misprint or Pokemon error, and you would only get like 200 results maybe, and it was always the same like rotation of like 30 different cards.
Yep.
So like when you're out there hunting for like the really rare error cards, like you could scroll quickly and see if anyone posts anything. Holy hell now. Like you can't do that. You'll be searching for hours. Like everything's an error card. Oh, it's got a little missed dot on it. That's an error card. Like it's got a crimp on it. That's an error card. It's like it's I think I did it the other day just for fun, just to see like, oh, what's been posted, to see if I could find like a I don't know, diamond in the rough, no damage Ninetales or something out there.
Oh yeah. So what I would always do for the no damage Ninetales is just do shadow. Now we're giving out all our search secrets, but I would do shadowless Ninetales and then just newly listed.
That's a
and
good
then
idea.
hope somebody recognized that it was shadowless, but didn't recognize like the no damage error. But it's getting so hard to do that kind of stuff now. And I used to search like Pokemon, so
Oh yeah.
Pokeemon, and I
Never.
do that, and there would be like 17 results. Now there's probably like, I think autocorrect kind of screwed up a lot of that too, trying to find those like spelling mistakes and
I
stuff.
still do Pokemon. I still do Pokemon every
Oh,
once in a while.
Pokemon with AN, yeah.
Yep, that's a good one. That brings a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 results.
Ever do that stuff? You guys are funny. Believe it.
I had a lot of luck. Anytime I would go after sets, I would just do Pokemon and the year of the set. And
Sometimes I will do like if I do, so I'll do it with Pokemon and then without Pokemon, because sometimes I will say that can make a significant difference, because a lot of people don't necessarily put Pokemon in the title or listed in the correct place. And so, if you're looking for a specific card, just putting the name of that card, or if you're looking for a specific set or cards from a specific set, just putting the name of that set can come up with some stuff that, yeah.
oh, trust me, I've tried it all, and I've had a lot of luck, believe it or not, with like Pop Series cards. Seeing how we just talked about Pop Series 5, just picking up like a lot of raw Pop Series. What I found is like a lot of it is just real new sellers selling stuff as lots and stuff. And I felt like Pop Series is one of those few sets that people, for whatever reason, who have relatively decent collections, always sell all their pop cards as a lot. And like there's some really good ones, like I forget which Pop Series, but it's a hollow Pikachu.
The hollow one.
I think it's like it's like a 16 out of 17 or something.
I actually
14.
graded a bunch of those. Not the hollow one, but yeah, I know Pikachu's in series 2, so it's not series 2.
Yeah, there's the
That's the
one
one
where
where
he's surfing on the
Whalmer on the
Whalmer,
Whalmer.
yeah.
That
But that's
is,
not the one I'm talking about. It's a hollow one. I just bought it. I could look.
I know the one you're talking. That's not series 6 or 9. I can't remember
Yeah.
because I know the ones it's not the one I graded all of them.
Well, there's a Series 5 hollow one, but that is on the Whalmer.
Okay.
No, it's a different one.
And then there's a separate one. Let's see.
There is a Delta Species one too. That's nice.
Yeah, the metal one.
Metal one, yeah.
I can't remember what series that is either. I have a bunch of them. So
I always sporadically picked up Pop Series. I never went after it too directly.
There's some cool cards in there.
I always wanted to complete the full set in like PSA 9, PSA 10, all of the different Pop Series sets, because there's some really cool cards, I think.
Oh yeah.
And when you think about the logistics of picking up Pop Series packs now and near mint, obviously, they even the cheapest ones are like $25. Like that's a lot of money for 2 non-hollows.
So this can be for basic in the chat. The Pop Series actually has my favorite Bulbasaur art in it. It's the one with the 2 little Bulbasaurs next to each other. I love this card. This is I was selling these as like a Valentine's Day special. It's like, oh, you can give this to your significant other. It's 2 cute little Bulbasaurs next to each other. I love that card.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool niche stuff, and I like that stuff too, because it's in English, which is can be a little bit more unusual for niche items.
Yeah.
Reese says he thinks I'm talking about the Pop Series 9 Pikachu. I could look at it. I just bought it. Like,
so I think the Delta Species one is also 5.
Yes.
But I don't know about a different one. But I am definitely not a Pop Series, expert. I have not spent lots and lots of times looking at those sets.
It's this one I just bought. Can you see it?
Oh yeah.
So this was the lot I just bought.
Oh, nice.
Hard to see, but like I like this Rayquaza that was in it.
Yep. Like that's from 3, isn't it? Is that Pop Series 3?
Yeah, I can't remember all the Pop Series. There's this Pikachu too.
It's staying on sort of the bottom of
that Pikachu is Series 2. I have that. Yep, that one's 2.
You know what? Pop Series cards are fun, man. Like
they are.
They're nothing special, but it just gives you something to do.
I like how they put the number right next to like the rarity, like which set it is. I don't know, little things like that I like. It's different.
I wish they'd go back to the old card
Pokeball
design.
and then the number, I think, if I remember correctly. I haven't looked at a postage card in a while, but
I wish they'd go back to, yeah, let's see. Yeah, it's the rarity. It's the set, the rarity, and then the Pokeball with the Pop Series number. I honestly wish they'd go back to doing the set symbols and the set stuff on the right of the cards. I hated it when they switched it over to the left.
all right, let's see here.
So,
All right,
any good questions in the chat?
Yeah, ask us your questions, guys. Now we're gonna do a bunch of questions.
Yeah, guys.
I saw a good one.
Let's see. I'm just gonna start from the top here, but yeah, feel free to pick any out. Basic Trainer says this live makes him feel better about not being Collecticon. Yeah, I really wanted to go to this one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people I like a lot are hanging out there.
So I mentioned this in one of my lives. Nick Old School Pokemon messaged me and he said, "Hey man, do you want to do the drive?" Because he would kind of be passing my house to go down there. He's like, "Hey, do you want to do the drive?" And I was like, yes, I do. But I just went to the Leonhardt Pop Shop and we have the newborn at home. My wife would murder me. She's like, but I already in my head, I was like, can I buy like a sliver of his table too? And I could just like pay for my trip that way. But then I can't do it time wise. It's not possible.
I wanted to go. I think I'm gonna try and go to the next one. It's one of those
Would you
things
consider doing a table too?
I would like to talk to somebody about the logistics of bringing stuff out to do a table.
Oh, true. Yeah.
I don't, so yeah, I'd probably talk to Nick about it. See what if he had any, like he mentioned that he built his table basically, and he was able to bring it in his suit. I mean, that guy is like crazy. He built his table and brought it with him in his suitcase somehow. Like, like Inspector Gadget just popped up his table. Like, I don't know. That seems like I'm not that, uh, enjoy and I'm not that good at doing stuff like that. So I don't know. We'll see. I would like to do a table though. Yeah. I think I can move a lot of stuff that way. Um,
I'm planning on going to the Charlotte and the Denver.
Charlotte one's the one I'm thinking about going to. Yeah.
So hopefully a bunch of people will come.
That would be cool.
Hang out. Yeah, I've been wanting to go for these for a long time, so it'll be super sweet to actually do it. My chair's getting trouble right now.
I was super disappointed the Florida Regional got canceled. I was so getting ready to go do that. Like I really wanted to go play again. Like I've been hankering to go
building
play.
decks and stuff or no?
I've been building some with paper cards and play testing. Yeah.
Okay.
So like I don't want to actually buy like but I was gonna probably play Mew. But yes, I've been watching stuff here and there, building some stuff, playing it around in my desk area. I need to focus more on playing online, but I just don't have the time.
Yeah. Once the mobile version goes live, then I'm back to playing again. I haven't like
Yeah.
literally like, well, first of all, it was too hard to keep up with. It's the same excuse as always. Sometimes it's just too hard to keep up with like competitive decks and stuff. But once the mobile version comes on, then I got a ton of code cards. I'm sitting at home.
Exactly.
And I saw you're only able to transfer over like 125 packs or something.
Yeah.
I got way more than that in code cards. So I'm just sitting back, being patient, waiting.
It's a good plan. Because that's the one thing that stopped me dead in my tracks with the way it is now, is having to manually enter all these code cards, or use like a camera on your computer but you can't use your phone to scan the code card right now, which is super annoying.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's jump into some questions.
I see.
First one is for you, PK. Why do you personally grade packs from Metazoa?
So good question. First of all, I've never bought a graded pack. I don't have any plan to ever grade or to buy a graded pack. Yeah. I never liked the old pack style when they were, folded over the crimson. They kind of smashed in them. I mean, those cases were made for literally wax packs for baseball cards. It just didn't work for Pokemon. But when they transferred over to the new cases, I just really liked it. And I was like, man, there's like a couple packs from some sets that I just want to have to display because they're more my favorite sets, but it has nothing to do with like resale value, flippability, or anything like that. For me personally, I won't buy a graded pack because I don't trust the people grading it. I would rather just have that pack in my hands myself. And
Mhm.
like this way I could do all my own tests to it. And nothing crazy, but just like really being able to look at that pack. And especially when they used to fold the packs, it was impossible to do like a lot of the tests. And even the ones like Rusty talks about, and I want to say he talks about it a lot, like older base set packs, like there's little air vents in the side and stuff. But if you were to heat seal those together, those are going to get pinched down, but you can't see that in graded packs. So just things like that. So that's why I do it, just because I really like the new cases. That's the short answer to a long answer.
Next question by Ancient Mew is, have you guys gotten any brilliant stars yet?
Yep. I got my
Yep.
booster box in the mail 2 days ago.
Yep. I got my allocation. I'm in no hurry to sell it. I'll say that.
I I did some Pokemon Center ETBs too. I just got 4 of them because I I just like them, and
Yeah,
I bought them like right when they got released, the very first day, and then I was like, oh, these things are gonna sell instantly, and then they sat on the Pokemon Center for legit like 2 full months. Um,
yeah.
but that's
These
just because I want like one to have, one to maybe display, and then maybe two to sell in the future. And they come in like a little sealed case. It's pretty nice.
That's
But
cool.
yeah,
I do like
those got caught up because of the snow and the storm in the Northeast, so they haven't been delivered yet.
I do like this round, this wave of Pokemon Center ETBs, how it's the inverse color palette with the yellow and the white. It does, I think they do look cooler, more significant enough of a change to actually carry some identity. I do like the way these ones look. Um, so this kind of, I guess, goes into, we could touch this real quick because Thrifty TCG asks below too. He says, been seeing breakers charging $8 a pack for Brilliant Stars. Is there a point where it gets unethical to charge this much for modern? People out here acting like we aren't getting 2 to 3 waves. So I actually have some thoughts on this. And I'll preface this with, I actually watched your entire live with old card shop, who I'm pretty good friends with, in the Discord we're all in, and he's actually the one who got me into Whatnot. So I'll answer this with 2 parts. First about the wave allocations. I actually heard that we are not getting 3 waves of Brilliant Stars. We are only getting 2 waves of Brilliant Stars, and that allocations were hard up from distributors on this. So I don't think the plan is right now. Distributors don't know everything all the time, and I'll also preface that with, my distributor has not always been the most forthcoming with his information to myself. But every other time he's told me sets have been short printed, they were short printed, not as many waves as other sets. He wasn't lying to me about that fact. So he told me 2 waves, less waves than that were originally planned for Brilliant Stars, and that there's only going to be 2 waves. So I have heard from other people that also, but I have also heard from other people that there's plentiful amounts of it and that you can get whatever you want for allocations. Now, whether that's just because there's wave 1 is really large and wave 2 will be smaller, I don't know. But I do not think that it is out of the realm of possibility, based off what I've heard, that Brilliant Stars will not be as plentiful as everyone thinks it will be. Um, so with that being said, do you get into people wanting to charge more per booster box to get, like, I don't think there's necessarily FOMO going on with Brilliant Stars. I just think there's a legit, there might not be as many waves of this as there might need to be because it's a 5 Charizard set. Like, I don't really know if Pokemon Company takes that into consideration when they're planning their waves so much as how much can they crank out of the factory. I think we may have a small case here where it's a very high demand set that's not going to get as many waves as people think it is. Um, Now, as far as charging $8 a pack, so from what I've seen on streamers, most streamers don't charge that much a pack unless there's something else involved in that too. There's some sort of prize available or something to raise the price per pack that high. Most of the time, price per pack is around 6 or 7. And I will defend that price point per pack for streamers, I will defend that price point because I've done it now for going on 2 months, multiple streams, every week, three to four streams a week. And I will tell you, and I've been wanting to say this for anyone out there who has not done it and who thinks it's just like turning on a money machine and it's extremely easy. I challenge anyone to actually do it and hold an audience. You have to be entertaining. You have to be an auctioneer. You have to be fully engaged. And you are in discomfort most of the time when you are sitting there for hours upon hours, engaging your audience and you're creating a show basically. And it is not easy to do. And it is a very personal thing. And when you actually care about providing, entertainment, you take a lot of things to heart. Like when people start to say stuff and like, if people aren't, engaging in the chat room and stuff, it can take its toll on you. You start to question, like, is it something I said? Is it something I did? Was it a nuance? There's like, you start to analyze all this stuff. It is extremely mental. When I am done with a stream, when I hit the off button, my first thing is like, oh my God, thank God I'm done. Like, I have no idea how PokeRev does that for 24 hours on end. I have so much more respect for that man after having done it now. So if you get a couple more dollars per pack for your time than you would over MSRP, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I would say that if anybody does, then I would ask those people, do you change your own oil or do you take your car to a service center to have your oil changed for you? Because if you take your car and you have people change your oil for you, there's no difference between that and having people open your packs for you and send them to you. Yes, you could go and you can buy the cans of oil and you could change that oil yourself and you could save some money, just like you could go to Target, you could buy the packs and you could open them. But there are people out there that do enjoy the community aspect and actually put the show aspect of, I buy LED lights, I buy, there's sound going on, like it's a whole thing. And it's not as easy as people think it is. I used to think it was super easy. It's not. So I will defend a slightly higher price point. Not outrageous, but a couple dollars more per pack on average if people want to tune in and do that. I don't see any problem with that.
Well, I think that let's take PokeRev, right? Someone who's been following PokeRev for years, maybe, or a year, is a huge fan, and they get PokeRev to open one of their packs for $8. That's a phenomenal deal.
It's true.
Like, you know what I mean? So like my issue was always the investment part of it.
Right.
Selling like you're going to make money. This is versus the like, this is entertainment. You're paying for my personality and for the fun of being all together and hanging out. I don't have a problem if people pay $25 a pack if it really feels and everyone feels like it's entertainment and enjoyment. I just think the predatory stuff was like the hard selling, the pushing it down people's throat, the saying you can make the money back when it's grading, the pretending you hit a big card when you didn't hit a big card. Like, it's all that stuff that makes me, and again, I'm not saying people can't do that. I just think it's unethical, people do this all the time. So now if you can charge 25 because people are willing to pay it, should you, or should or do you feel like I'm going to charge less because I'm still making enough and people are still, and that's an old debate in business of like, you should charge as much as you possibly can. It's your job to make as much money as possible and let the free market decide on one side of the argument. On the other side of the argument, more of like, you don't need that much. You could do it for a little bit cheaper. I honestly don't care that much about either of those arguments. The part I really care about is the lying to your audience, the salesman tactics, the hiding, the raffling, the resealed packs, the selling weighed packs on your stream as unweighed, it's like the really scummy stuff. And I have zero worry that you or Old Card Shop are doing any of that. So I would never have a problem with what you guys are doing.
That's definitely not happening.
And I think it's less dangerous now than it was because I think we were in an environment.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Where people were just making very, very irrational decisions. Like, and I think now it's not, we're not, it's just not as bad right now. It's not, and I think on a set like Billion Stars, if you want to charge $6-7 a pack, what is that? 216-ish, to 240-ish, somewhere in there that you're charging per booster box, and you're making after all the shipping fees and everything else or whatever it ends up being, you're taking home, you're making maybe $100 an hour, $120 an hour or something, maybe a little bit more, depending on your speed. And
Sure.
obviously, if you're doing it fast, you can make a lot more than that. I mean, people can make $1,000 an hour if they're able to get through enough product at that rate. But sort of the average person is probably more, and I don't know how much you're making on that. The other thing is how much product can you get? So even if someone makes
That's key.
$100 an hour for, or let's say someone makes $400 an hour, but they can only do it for 2 hours because that's the amount of product they got, it is a big payday for them, but it's the people who have the endless amounts of product, the humongous,
Right.
fan base who really can make an unbelievable amount of money. And, part of that's because they're great at what they do and people really enjoy them. And
So a lot of people in chat are saying they don't get it. They don't get why. Well, let me explain to some people. So let me give you guys some examples. So my streams average 30 to 40 viewers. It's not crazy. It's the time slots, guys. So like, give you guys some examples. And I was talking about this before we started the stream. I have a group of Marines that are stationed in Germany, and I have another group of Marines that are stationed in Guam that love to tune into my streams because the time hours work for them. And I've asked them, because I talked to them on Instagram. They've hit me up on Instagram afterwards. I was like, what do you guys like about my stream? Like, what do you guys like about whatnot? They can't get cards. They can't get cards as easily. They can't just go to Target. They can't just go wherever they are. It's easy for them to go on their app and click the little buy button and get packs that way. They prefer to do it that way. There are other people in those situations where, they're remote and they're not able to get packs as easily. So it's easier just to go on an app and watch people open them for a few hours and get packs that way. That's what they prefer to do. So it's not, and to your point also, Jake, yeah, everyone's under this assumption that like you can just make this, like there's just this infinite supply of booster boxes you get. I got my allocation of Brilliant Stars was 12 boxes, and that's all I'm going to get. So if you're running this as a business, people don't understand how hard it was to get those 12 boxes over the last year too. Like, you have to put a lot of upfront capital, and you have to build such a reputation with your distributor. You have to buy a lot of crap you don't want in order to get your numbers to the point where you're actually getting stuff. Like, if anyone, I would say this, if anyone's envious, if any of the hate towards streamers is envy, there is nothing stopping you from trying to do it yourself. And that's where I'm at with it. If everyone,
that like the reality of being online is that you can be just as good, just as entertaining, just as talented, but because of the algorithms, it's going to require a tremendous amount of effort and work to get big enough to.
Oh, for sure.
And not because of your lack of talent. It's just you weren't the first.
I don't mean like
the way it all works. Yeah. And but to get to a level of where you're like, it's a little bit of a small side hustle.
Sure.
How long do you think it would take right now, for someone new? But again, how do you get the product initially? How do you get the distributor? I mean, like realistically, I'm not sure.
I did it.
Let's take someone who's like really smart, really engaged, really hardworking, and really talented. What's your opinion, Echo? How long would it take for you to be able to do 10 hours a week and make $100 plus an hour?
2 years.
2 years.
It's a 2 year. It's a solid 2 year. If you're dedicated, if you want to do this, it's going to take you 2 years to get from starting out with nothing to be able to do it full time. It's going to take you two solid years of working a lot of extra hours, and that's you have to. So this is what I originally started my channel doing, was walking people through this process too. You have to find the startup capital money somehow. So if you have a personal collection, you have to flip your way and sell your way into getting a large enough cash pool to be able to have an upfront seed money with a distributor. Then you actually have to get in with a distributor, which right now is extremely difficult. I had to do a lot of calls, a lot of like multiple dials through multiple distributors, going through multiple levels of like, I get the customer service department. Can I talk to your manager? Can I talk to the people? I had to place many calls to everyone on that Pokemon list before I finally found a distributor that would take me on. Then you don't get anything. You don't get anything to start. You get like one or two products. So then you're starting out basically building your allocations from nothing. And even when you start to actually get an opportunity to purchase something, so they'll come to you and be like, okay, well, we have all these extra EX tins. You can buy $4,000 of them if you want them.
Mhm.
Okay, great. How am I going to sell $4,000 of EX tins to make my money back? Like, you have to figure this stuff out. And then once you finally get in a position, it takes about a year. Meanwhile, the whole time you're going to have to build your social media too. Like, people are going to have to know who you are. So that takes time too. Like, it just doesn't come out of nowhere. I spent 3 to 4 months trying to get on Whatnot before I finally got on.
Mhm.
You have to make Instagram story posts. You have to email their service team. You have to apply for reply for applications multiple times. Like, it takes a lot. You have to tag them all the time on Instagram. Like, it's not easy, but it's doable. If you're determined, it's doable. But if anyone's curious, there's another platform out there now called Drip. It's very similar to Whatnot. They're brand new, so they might be more open to allowing people to, they might be looking for sellers more than Whatnot is right now, because Whatnot gatekeeps with how many people they let on based off of how much their viewership has. And even once you get on, it's not like, the manna gates of heaven have opened up and it's just instant a money machine. I go on, I start out with 0 followers. I'm up to about 800 on Whatnot, but I stream on off hours that nobody else wants to do. I'm up at 5 a.m. multiple times a week to do this before my normal job. I'm up tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning. I'm getting up before everyone. I tried doing the prime time hours, but you're competing against 50 other channels that are already established.
Mhm.
And the way their interface works, it's very difficult for the new guy to get seen. So it's not easy. It is not easy at all. Everyone thinks it's just an instant money machine, and it's totally not. I can't tell you how many countless hours I've spent trying to get this started, to the point. And my whole goal the whole time, honest to God, was just so that I can get modern product for me and not have to pay for it. Like, every set, I would like to be able to get a case of product at the end of the day for myself that I can open and not have to pay for it. That was my goal the whole time, to be able to play and collect Pokemon for free. It wasn't to become a Pokerev. It wasn't to become a millionaire. And that goal has taken me a solid year and a half of work. And I'm not even at the point yet. I'm not even at that point yet. And so
I think often these things, like generally speaking, and hopefully you have a good business model. And I think one of the concerns and worries is like, how good is this business model? And I think people's instincts here of like, is that market always going to be there? Why are people paying for more? Will they continue to pay more? These types of things I think are interesting questions. But generally speaking, when you have a good business model like this, if it's a good business model, it might take 2 years to kind of get up and going. And then you hope to see some sort of exponential growth where it's like within the next year, you're going to double. And then within the next half year, you're going to double. And then the next, you know what I mean? So you put a lot of that upfront work.
Sure.
And so that's the period where a lot of people burn out, is if they don't happen. Like, if you don't start getting that exponential growth, and it'll be interesting to see how many people are doing this, who are doing this right now and Whatnot are doing this in a few years. And a lot of it will depend on the broader market, right? We could have like a lot of the people on Whatnot, including you, could be humongous in 4 to 5 years if the hobby gets a lot bigger and Whatnot is a major, selling platform, and it could really broaden. It also could be that there isn't that big of a market for online pack breakers. It'll be interesting to see. I think it's the same thing with these grading card companies, with these auction houses, with, there are lots of new businesses, lots of new things starting up, and it's all gonna, depend on demand, right?
Yeah, this could not even be a thing in a year or two. You're absolutely right. Like, you might have to switch your business model and pivot and do something else. Yeah,
Or there's only enough room for 100 or 200 of the biggest people rather than,
right.
so
Yeah.
who knows?
I will say though that don't anyone out. I'm not trying to have anyone out there feel bad for me. I like what I do. It's fun too. I do like opening packs. Like the other
Yeah.
day, I get to open and I get to see a ton of alt arts that I would not normally get to hold in my hands for free. Like
Yeah.
I love that experience of like when you open a card, that's one of the things I get out of it. Like I'm cracking a lot of Fusion Strike and I'm seeing the Espeon VMAXs and the Mew alt arts, and they are gorgeous cards that I don't have to go spend $300 on just to have. Like I get to hold it for a little bit and then mail it off to somebody. And I do like that. That is fun for me.
Yeah. Well, we're all trying to do jobs and have side hustles that hopefully are enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Uh,
um, people asking me a lot about just like my background and what's going on back there. Maybe I'll do a tour at some point. I don't know if I will, but
oh, you got a
here's the,
super chat.
So
here's
I,
the,
I don't I don't get the $8 packs. I've already like talked
it's the
about
best.
if you get
There's a bunch of stuff that I need to still open.
You got a super chat.
Super chat. Let's see. Hisoka, hey man, hope you've been doing well. What about $5? What about if you're just an average looking petite female? Can I just put my PO box and Amazon wish list in my profile?
probably.
Not touching that one. Hmm.
I don't know. I don't get the $8 pack breaker prices. I don't do it. I don't understand it. I think if I wanted, I could sell, but I don't want to. And I just look right now while you guys are talking, and Pokemon Center, there's not a single Brilliant Stars product that is currently out of stock, not one. So I just don't get it. I'll probably never get it. And I don't really want this to keep it going. It's just me, right? Everybody's different. I'm just at the point where if you want to do it, do it. But I'll never get it. I don't get it.
So I don't get $8 a pack unless there's a prize associated with it.
Yeah,
So
even that, I don't get it. It's
Hmm.
just
I mean, I think that, so I mean, I have seen people at the height, I was seeing people charge $50 for an evolutions pack.
Oh my God, that's insane.
$35 a hidden fates pack, these types of things that people were getting. So
Wow.
there was some shenanigans going on. So when I was making my videos and when I was like really, really concerned about it, that is what was happening. There's more important things in life than to care that much about this. Like, I'll just be completely honest.
That's
Like,
true.
I'm sure there are some people doing some crappy things and using crappy sales techniques, like creating FOMO, creating, whatever, right? But we can't police all of that. As far as like me spending $8 on a streamer's pack, like the only reason I would ever do that is if I just wanted to support you, Joe. But like there are
yeah.
other ways I would support.
That's yeah.
It
I would
Yeah.
go on. Yeah, I go
would
on
not
Joe's
be for the
Instagram.
experience of you opening a pack for me. Like,
Or just
I would rather open the packs myself. I'm always one of those people. I'd much rather us hang out in person and open packs together
Yeah.
than you open a pack on stream for me.
Sure. Yeah.
But I do, for me, the part that made the most sense to me always was just the community part. It wasn't even like the streamer part I get, and people like develop a connection to a streamer and are a fan of theirs, and there's some sort of special personal connection when they open their pack for them. I get that. It's not for me. But what I do get is just like being in chat, like even here, like we recognize most of these people, they recognize each other.
Yep.
It's just like, even if what we're saying isn't that interesting, it's fun to be here and it's enjoyable to all be together and hang out. And I think that it's the same thing going on in a lot of cases, and most of the people are not actually buying anything.
Absolutely. I'd say out of 30 people on average in stream, more than half of them are just there to chat and hang out. They're not even there to buy stuff.
Yeah. And I used to talk to like Royalty Gaming about it, like what percentage was buying, and it was mostly like repeat people, and a lot of people were buying a lot, and it's it's so that's my overall take. I know that it's quite a thing, and to PK's point, like I have no interest in doing that. I it just doesn't appeal to me to be like beyond the ethics of it. Like I don't like the business model that much, but beyond all of that, I just I I like making money by guessing correctly what's going to happen or by finding really good deals and lots. Like that just to me is a more enjoyable way of doing all of this than it is like getting product and then just like through my entertainment being able to sell it higher than I would if I were to just list it on eBay. It doesn't appeal to me personally.
I think what it boils down to is the same thing that I think about all the time. Every time I see somebody spend a lot of money on like some modern pack or modern card, I've talked about this on like one of my lives in the past. Every time my brain always goes to the same spot. I'm always looking at the prices other people are paying for modern stuff and just going, but this is all the stuff I would have bought instead with that money. Like whether it's a couple $100 or whatnot, and I see somebody, it's like, okay, I watched this guy buy 3 auctions in a row. He got, I don't know, $5 worth of value and he spent like $60. With that do you know how much money I can make in this hobby with $60? Or then I see some people buy like on a PokeRev stream and buy a pack of Holland's Phantoms for $850. And I sit there and I like think to myself, I'm like, oh my God, do you know how much money you can make with $850?
I saw streamers selling like Japanese like fossil packs for like $400 each.
That's insane.
And at the time, the Dragonite in PSA 10 was like $400, $400 or $500. So it was like, what are we doing?
Yeah, well, that's like my problem.
The best possible card you can pull in best possible grade is worth the cost you're paying to buy into this. It's sort of like, it gets to this point of like, do you really just not know what's going on? Like, how can you, why are you buying
this is
that is very different though than buying an $8 Billion Stars pack.
Sure, we're beyond that, but this is still an interesting topic.
But this is a topic I like to talk about. People stop overspending on modern and stop overspending on junk. And I think that's the problem too. But this is also the thing, I guess, and Jake being a psychiatrist, like this is a psychological thing I can never get over is when I see people doing that, I like want to reach out to these people personally and be like, why are you doing this? Because I've always been curious if it's just like
they're buying it for the dopamine rush. They're buying it for the friendship, for the approval of the streamer, all sorts of things. So I've seen a lot of really awful things this year, like things where it felt like, if you buy this, then you're like my friend and I'm going to like treat you better in the stream, like all sorts of like priority treatment to people who were spending more. If you spent more on the stream, you would get like invited to the private Discord and you'd be able to like be a mod, or you'd get like special access if you paid more for things. The highest donators would get, there's a lot of systems that people develop. And it's like, it totally makes sense. You're paying to be accepted into a community. You're paying to get the attention of the streamer, and
that's an expensive friend.
It is what it is. I mean, it's and to me, shame on both the streamer and not necessarily shame on the person buying it, but that person needs some help. Needs
help.
Some.
Yes.
I don't think I am judging them and criticizing them, and maybe I'm wrong because maybe they are getting good value, but I just think that's going to leave you pretty empty. Unless you're very, very rich, if you are giving like PokeRev, if you're giving PokeRev, and PokeRev never did any of this, but just if you're giving PokeRev $500 so that he likes you better or you guys can become friends. I mean, I experienced this the same way. Like you should not do a consult with me to become friends or to get in some sort of like inner circle with me. Right. Like, Poke Knowledge is one of my favorite people to have on. He's not in the Patreon at all, you know,
I'm not.
and it bothers me zero, right? I'm interested in discussions and with people that I think are smart and
Dude,
interesting, right?
Pokenaus, you gotta jump in the Discord just to get those no, just to get those PSA announcement emails, because people be throwing those up within 3 seconds.
I know. I got off the phone yesterday with PSA asking why I'm not getting those emails. And I got like one, but I haven't got any more. So
I feel bad. I have more allocations than I'm gonna
yeah.
use right
So
now.
yesterday I called, I was like 95th in line. It took them like almost 6 hours to call me back. It was crazy. And it was the same guy I talked to last time. So
Yeah, I think they have like 3 people answering their phones at PSA.
okay.
It's the same 3 people all the time.
And I
We
could
have
hear it in
one
his voice. That
question.
guy's just like a very defeated human being. Like
Um,
I'm like, oh hey man. And he's
It's
like,
got to
oh
be one of the
God, what do you
worst
need
jobs in
this
the
time?
world. Could you imagine all the hate all day long? Where are my cards?
Oh,
Natso 400 asks, can you talk about the populations of Japanese versus English vintage hollows?
I saw that
yeah.
one.
Uh, a
I
bunch.
love this
Yeah.
topic actually.
20 to 1.
I think it just depends on the set. And this is one of those things that's like a real like theoretical thing. And the question is Japanese hollows, especially when it comes to more vintage stuff, scarcer? And the answer is it depends on the set. Did that set have 60-pack booster boxes, one hollow per pack? Or was it like a Wizard of the Coast set that was one out of every 3 packs has a hollow? Some Japanese sets do, some don't. The problem is that a lot of those Japanese hollows just haven't made it to like PSA yet. Now, in the future of Pokemon, assuming prices stay high, I think some of those cards eventually will work their way out of Japan and start to be graded a little bit more. But I think people just, I'm not a huge Japanese collector for that reason. Now, I've talked about it. I want to say on Jake's stream that I own Japanese cards, but I'm just so nervous because I'm not like 100% super familiar with the releases. I know some of this real early Japanese stuff. The reason why every single person you ever come across had some Japanese card in their set when they were growing up, and this is a funny thing. No one ever knows how it got there. The reason why you don't know how it got there is because eventually those Japanese packs and boxes were so mass printed and produced that they were trickling into hobby shops, and they were the cheapest packs because there was so much inventory. So I just always get very nervous when it comes to stuff like that. So I kind of stay away from it personally.
What do you think, Eka?
So if we're, I think that the amount, so from what I've heard, and I was actually just trying to go to find the page on PokeGym where I remember reading it, but I can't find it. I tried to do a search for the term, but the Japanese print run of base, fossil, and jungle was about twice that of English from what I've heard. I can't find, I can ever find the thread, I'll link it to you. But that's what I've heard. Now you could do some math about, one in every 3 packs for a hologram versus one hologram in every pack, 60 packs per box, and you could do the math on that. That's why I randomly said 20 times. You could do the math on that. But I would be more interested to know, from everything I've seen recently, it's getting harder and harder and harder to find mint condition Japanese holofoils out there. The Japanese culture isn't like ours with collectibles. They don't penny sleeve everything. And I know a lot of us didn't back in the day either, but they don't do baseball cards. They don't do sports cards. They don't have a real focus on, to them it's just a commodity that's meant to be used and played, and that goes deep. That goes a long way across all of their card hobbies. So I have not, and I look on Bai a lot, and I have very few and far between in the last several months been able to come up with large lots of, I'd say within the last 6 months, it's starting to dry up the amount of mint condition, large lots of holofoils and Japanese cards like you used to be able to find. And I think that a lot of people are either buying them up or they're not, like, they're really played. They're heavily played stuff that's out there now that's available for sale. So I don't know if we're ever going to know the exact print run numbers. Pokemon Company will never release exact print run numbers, but I've always been under the impression that the Japanese print numbers were more, but that the cards might be harder to find long term in good condition. That's been my personal belief on it.
So I'll throw a little data out there for people. So there have been, in the last 52 weeks, and this is courtesy of Pokemetrics, which everyone should check out. And Pichu fan, who's a wonderful person in the community, Pokemetrics, I think he's going to start and has a Patreon for it. I really want to suggest that we all kind of help out, and I think he's going to add some tiers on it, and I'm completely unaffiliated with it. He's just a really good guy who I think deserves our support. And I was actually building I'm going to use this, not a competitor because it wasn't really trying to compete financially, but just a very similar sort of thing that I've been using to get my data up to this point that I've used on my Patreon and all sorts of things. And going forward, I'm probably going to be using a lot of Pokemetrics data. So I really want to give them a shout out. This is from there. So Fossil, from the last 52 weeks, we have 25,000 English cards have been graded in the last 52 weeks, 25,000 from Fossil Unlimited. And then from about 25,000, a little over. And then from Fossil Japanese, we have about 8,000 over the same period. So you have 3 times as many unlimited Fossil English cards created as Japanese Fossil. Now, that doesn't mean that it's 3 times, you have to think about who's grading.
Sure.
The Japanese culture, obviously, they do not grade. It's Western people who are probably grading those Japanese cards. But you have to think about price point. And the reason I kind of like unlimited versus Japanese is because they're a little bit closer in price point, with the Japanese first edition being quite a bit more expensive. So it provides more incentive to grade those. There isn't quite as much incentive on Japanese unlimited, and you're not going to get a ton of those like commons and uncommons in unlimited. People are sending them in a lot, but not quite as much as in first edition. Similar to Japanese, you do see people grading commons and uncommons, but it's majority the hollows that people are grading. So I think it's an interesting data point. A lot of people who on my Patreon and Discord have been, bringing this up to me because they're very interested in the data, and they're interested just to understand why are there so much fewer Japanese hollows graded than English first edition and English unlimited in some cases. Why is that? Is that going to remain the case? Is it much rarer, these types of things? And the reality is all we know are these pop reports, and we're all just going to kind of wait and watch. And everyone's going to have their own instinct and opinion based on, what they've seen out there in the world. But I don't think anyone, I would listen to, personally, I would, unless they gave hard data and some sort of facts, there is no database in terms of, as we've all said here, in terms of distribution. So I don't think we can do any better than that.
So Kevin Clare said kind of a good point. He said, so start a grading company in Japan, but let's just say hypothetically, PSA was like, we're opening up our own PSA factory in Nagasaki. Oh. The amount of Japanese cards would far exceed English overnight. Like, it would be crazy. I think that's the problem. And I've talked to people in other countries, and I say, how come you guys don't grade more of your cards with PSA? I'm like, I don't understand. You guys have a lot of good raw cards. Some of the people I know from other countries, and their answer to me is always the same. They just either can't do it, or the shipping and import fees are just so high for them that it's not worth it for them to like send over high grade cards. And then that's when I go into, you should really get a PWCC vault and all that stuff. But the actual grading process, and especially for PSA to ensure those packages for people, like, that's why those middleman services were so highly used in like the UK and stuff.
Yeah.
But if Japan had something like that, I think we would see way more cards being graded. But I don't think the market would be strong enough there to justify that either.
The guys in the chat are saying that there is a PSA Japanese office. I wasn't 100% sure.
That's the case. That's news to me. Unless
I've also heard they're going to open one in the EU too.
Well, they're opening one in Jersey. Jersey City.
Yeah.
That's where I'm from. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm trying to remember the data on the Japanese place that was open. I'm trying to remember conversations I had with Sub F about it. So for a while they had announced that and it hadn't actually opened, I thought, or it was maybe coming, and then maybe it did actually open, but it's small. Yeah, I'm not sure. Let me look it up.
Okay.
Yeah,
What are
that's
people
news to
saying in
me.
the chat? If you can give us any
PSA is a Japanese office where they grade. So Reeks is pretty reliable. Reeks is saying they have a Japanese office. I thought about that, Mason, but it's in Jersey City, which is actually really far from me, and it would not make sense. I get a lot of advantages of working out of my house, so I would no longer be able to work out of my house. So I thought about it though, Mason.
So it's been open since 2018, but let's see how big it is, because I that's the part that I don't remember.
Yeah, I'd be interested, and especially if that PSA, who knows if they share pop reports, stuff like that. I don't know. I would assume they would, but I wouldn't even be 100% sure.
Well, it's all the same pop report.
Yeah, I mean, but are they
Right.
like actively? Yeah, probably.
My understanding, it's all the same, like because it's all just PSA.
Yeah.
They don't do the labels or anything in Japanese. You would have
So
seen these.
speaking of pop reports, you think CGC is gonna actually
Uh,
make theirs go live pretty soon? Hopefully by
uh,
the end of next, or I guess technically this month when most people are watching it, March, and
we're we are gonna have so many videos to make.
so many 9.5s.
Whew.
So
Ah,
I'll take my little second to bash CGC on Jake's channel because that's what I'm good at. But I don't know how recently you've watched like the disparity between 9.5 prices and 10s, but they are ridiculous.
yeah, they are.
And just today I was curious. I was like, you know what? Let me bash CGC a little bit on Jake's channel. Let me go find like an example of a card that I think would be like a super overproduced modern promo. And because we're talking about Japan and PSA, let's just talk about like a Japanese promo. So I looked at the Reds Pikachu, the 20th anniversary
Sure.
card. There's people had bricks of those things. I looked at the most recent sale at a 9.5 is like $92, but if you clicked on it, they took a best offer of 88. And then the most recent PSA sale was like 130. So 88 for a 9.5 CGC, $88 CGC 9.5, or 130 for a PSA 10. And I'll tell you right now, those Reds Pikachus are one of the easiest cards to ever grade. I think they grade PSA 10 at 90% PSA
Wow.
10 rate. That means for every 10 cards you submit, you're going to get 9 10s. And they're literally selling for, what is that? $42 more. That's almost a 50% price increase to have it be a PSA 10 than a CGC 9.5. It's getting ridiculous. Now, for sellers, that sucks. Buyers, scoop up those 9.5. Yum, 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 yum,
Yep.
yum.
Yep. Yeah, I've started to look into buying a lot more 9.5s for CGC, and every
Crazy.
one I find, I'm just gonna crack and send, crack and send.
I'm
I
done grading with CGC.
I have probably 600 already, 6 to 7
Wow.
that I bought.
9.5s?
9.5s, yeah.
Wow. What,
You're probably buying mine, to be honest, Jake, because
all
I'm
over the,
fire selling my 9.5.
all over the
I think
spectrum?
I buy
Like,
everything these days. Anything that I feel like is good value. But I
how
try
many
things and
are,
and
what price point how many of those are you gonna wait to send in a bulk?
um
You're
well,
gonna,
I may never send them in if CGC ever corrects in price. So I mean, one option
oh,
is that
you're gonna wait until, okay.
we start to
Makes
see
sense.
CGC 9.5s go up in value. Another option is if it does ever make sense, the only ones that I would really crack would be the higher valued, ones where I'm going to get a huge premium going from a 9.5 to 10. And I would
Sure.
say, because a lot of the 9.5s I'm buying are like, I'm a big fan of like, I don't want to say because I don't want to create.
Don't, that's okay. Yeah. No,
But anything I talk about on this channel is probably stuff that I'm not intensely actively buying at the moment. It's just a
sure.
reality.
Yeah, I made
But
the mistake to do that. Talk about what I'm buying.
but I'm buying things that all over. And but yeah, definitely now it was much better 2 months ago because I was buying them most aggressively about a month and a half, 2 months ago. That was the best time. They were the lowest. They were the cheapest. I was buying cards at like $4 graded, cards that are worth like $50. Like it was just
Yeah.
like everyone
Yeah.
had like left the hobby. People had given up. It was like this weird, it was like this, like, it seemed like no one else was looking on eBay anymore. It went
Right,
from like
right.
every lot had like 15 watchers to just like, no one's here anymore.
Sorry,
It's like
Jake,
you open the door and you're like, hello,
hold on.
hello?
Real quick, I just want to address the chat real quick. So Pokin Fun said, talking about those Reds Pikachus, but he said people are also still factoring grading cost. $140 PSA 10, you lose money. $80 CGC, you make 50. I'm going to let you know very clear that all those Reds Pikachus that came out in 2016 for the 20th anniversary, I promise you, they were not graded at,
Yeah, those were graded at
$200.
like,
They were graded at $10 to,
yeah.
trust me. I promise you, trust me. Those guys who graded those made a lot of money, and me being one of them. And I know there's a lot of people out there because those were very obvious. And then I think you could just look at any modern promo, look at like Kanazawa Pikachus, look at Poncho Pikachus, look at the price disparities between 10 to 9.5, guys. Good luck.
Stupid.
But now
those are the dumbest. You like the Japanese promos are like so easy to grade often that all of those 9.5s are PSA 10s. They just grade
every one of them.
They just don't get PGC 10s, so they're all 10s.
Especially when the subgrades are 10, 10, 9, 5.
Right.
10, 10, 9, 5, 9, 5.
Yeah, it's but there's a convenience element. Those cards aren't that expensive anyway. So I do think some of it is a convenience element. It's a collector saying, I don't like CGC. I have my whole collection in PSA. And realistically, I'm never actually I've never cracked a card before. I'm uncomfortable cracking a card. I don't really know what that means. And I've never sent in cards before. So cracking this card, the idea of cracking this card and then sending in the card to save like $40 on one of those like not that expensive promos, it's just not worth it, for them, now for Echo to buy 1,000 of them, or for me to buy 1,000 of them and then grade them all, that's $40,000 if I can actually, I can sell them all eventually if it takes me a few years to sell. So, then it becomes like a lot more, particularly if you have an ease and a comfort and an eye and you feel like, what you're doing there, there's probably enough of a buffer there that, it's both worth your time and also some error, because of course a number of them will come back 9s, or other things. So
this comes with that huge danger factors. When we talk about those cards being like a good sell for people, those aren't really the cards I would say would be worth it, because now how many cards are still at CGC of those Reds Pikachus? Could we realistically see PSA 10 prices drop to $80? Yes. 100%. We could definitely see prices retrace, because that's a card that we haven't even scratched the surface with how many of those are going to come back. So if people are picking up CGC 9.5s right now with that thought process to cross grade when grading prices drop lower, everybody out there, be very understanding that you are taking the risks that you are buying at tomorrow's PSA 10 prices. Like I wouldn't tell you to do stuff like that. Now, if you're going to say you're buying some like real obscure Wizard of the Coast holo that, has very low PSA pops and somebody graded at a 9.5, like go for it. Like,
so I'm curious about another card while we're on the subject here. So here's another good example. Illustrator Charizard. Another easy card to get in a 10. Another card you could buy by brickload. PSA 10 sales in the $70 range. PSA 9.5 sales in the $35 range. So
you get a 50% premium to go with a PSA slab. So
Red's Pikachu had about 63 cards graded this week, which actually is a fair amount, but it's nowhere near the amount of like Champions Path Charizards or it's the Charizard from Hidden Fates that I see people telling people to buy and invest in, and how can it go below 60 or 70 or whatever. There are 5,381 of these, and 4,858 are 10s.
Holy shit.
Wow.
That's a
Has
lot.
a
Wow.
98%.
That is an easy 10.
Yeah, so it is an extremely easy 10. It's a card that could not, it wouldn't be that hard to get black labels or CGC 10s. You know, you'd have usually it's, the thing that's thrown around is about 6% of a modern card might get it fresh out of pack, might get a black label or something like that. It's going to be much higher for a card like this. Yeah, at the same time, that's not that much. And I do think that things from 2018, they just were not printed as much as stuff that's printed now. It's going to be really interesting over time. I think the Sun and Moon era, I'm just going to say, I think that there's opportunity in the Sun and Moon era. And there are certain items in the Sun and Moon era that, like, I'd be looking at the Sun and Moon era way more than I'd be looking at the Sword and Shield era. Let me just tell everyone out there. That's my personal opinion. I think you have some stuff selling for around the same price as similar stuff from the Sword and Shield era. That the reason Sword and Shield is selling for higher is because it's more popular right now, because people are right now. And in reality, the Sun and Moon stuff is much lower pop reports. It's being graded much slower. Vivid Voltage is like 3,000 to 5,000 new cards a week are being graded, from sets like that. Versus your Sun and Moon sets that are 100, 200, 300, 400 cards being graded outside of Hidden Fates a week, outside of Hidden Fates, which is massive.
There's actually a few Sun and Moon cards, without saying exactly which ones, that recently I've picked up a couple hundred copies of each card, promos
Yeah, so
from that era, because I thought this is the same exact thing. Yep. There's some good cards in Sun and Moon.
Now I want to play detective and guess that it's from a build and battle kit. It's one of the 4.
Not from a build and battle kit. Nope.
I was gonna say, is it from the team up build and battle kits?
No, but those are cool
Okay.
cards. Those are good ones to get to. I like the build and battle kits. Ironically, I just got my Q4 Pokeball tins in. They have Cosmic Eclipse packs in them.
Mason said that the Mimikyus from the team up single pack blisters, maybe. That's a promo though. Yeah, the Mimikyu. So you got the Mimikyu Pikachu, or just the pink Mimikyu standalone? We cracked it. Joe Smile. We cracked it.
No, it was.
Briar says, do you guys enjoy the Legends Arceus game?
Oh, he struck a nerve with me. I so want to play it. Damn it.
I haven't played it yet. Have you played it, PK?
No, I don't have time for games right now.
3 no's so far, but I will play it eventually.
Same.
Let's see what we got here. Anybody know the estimated timeline under this is a question for, I guess, the chat too. Anybody know the estimated timeline under PSA's current $100 tier? I do not offhand.
Yeah, so I recently did a submission under $100, but it was a very like a 5-card submission, and I think the turnaround time was like 2 weeks.
Sounds right. I get it. I got about the same.
Low.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Any evolutions on my shelves? No. I don't own a single sealed evolutions item. That would be pretty hypocritical if I didn't sell them all.
I have one. I have one.
Jake has his Metazoa box. I should bring up a box of something just to like make Jake mad. Now's your time, guys. Anybody in the chat, like that's all this was the point of the stream, is just to answer questions. So feel free to ask them.
Think FWD said, did any of you ever collect Pokemon sampling packs? I'm a collector, but I've always wondered where Call of Legends sampling packs were distributed. I've been trying to hunt it down.
So no, I'm not a huge sample pack collector. It's something that's just never was like anything I went after. Now I would say that Joe probably has run across a lot of those in his day.
Yeah, so those actually came into the sample packs that everyone can get that are easily accessible came into existence after I exited the hobby briefly. So when I came back in, I saw those. I thought they were super cool, but they were also mass produced. The sample cards that everyone knows as the sample cards, they are not the same thing. Those I collect. That's a different thing though.
Yeah, I think he's talking about like the black and white sample packs, like I think they're like 3 packs.
I have a bunch of those, or just around, and I didn't target them. I just sort of picked them up in collections and different sorts of things over the years, and didn't didn't sell them because they were like worth not a lot. I don't think I have too many. I think I might only have like one or two Call of Legends ones. I'm looking at my spreadsheet. I have a lot of the black and white.
I do have. So I actually think I do know where they came from. Give me a second. I could probably pull out a blister that might have them. Hold on. Or you guys can keep talking about it.
Jake, favorite TCG Illustrator. John Quinlan wants to know.
Oh, I really don't have one, is the truth.
I was gonna say the same thing. I like Arita, but
Yeah. Like I'm very much card per card, and I think, and
Yeah.
rather than like I'm like this illustrator, is the best across the board.
although I do run into it a lot when I do so I'll do single streams too. I don't just pack break. I'll run singles, and I'll run into people that are like, "Do you have this reverse foil from Stormfront?" And I'm like, "Actually, I do. It's really weird that you asked that." And turns out they're like an art collector, and that's one of the art set for artists. I run into a lot of that. There's a lot of people out there with their favorite artists, and that's all they collect. It's a neat little fun way to collect, though. So I definitely appreciate it.
For sure. Yeah, I think because I'm really connected to the cards and not so much the artists. It just never really like I don't like, for me, it's like getting signatures or going after specific artist things. It just never connected with the way that I engage with this hobby naturally. But do I think it's freaking cool? Absolutely. And do I think like people who have like illustrations that were, like one of one sketch type illustrations?
That's cool.
That's freaking awesome.
That's freaking
I'd
awesome.
love to hang one up, I mean, that's freaking cool. So
it's funny. I can name you my favorite card with my favorite art, but I can't tell you who drew it.
Oh,
yeah. I don't even know who drew it, but I can tell you, I can easily name you my favorite card in the hobby, but I can't tell you who drew it. I never, so I guess I never really even thought to look, honestly, back then. A lot of my friends didn't really look at the artists and who drew what card. It wasn't, that's a later hobby development. That wasn't an early hobby development. A lot of people didn't really pay attention to that for a long time.
So to answer the sample pack question, like this is a blister. I have a black and white blister, and it's got like one regular pack in it, but then there's the sample pack in front of it.
That's cool.
And these are actually, this is actually like a Toys R Us exclusive one. I always try to buy the blisters that are a little more rare.
You should open that right now.
Yeah, good luck. What's the EV on a black and white pack? Like $2?
Just open it.
So we're getting some questions about Ukraine and about the effect on the Pokemon market.
I figured that.
I think inflation's going to have a big thing to happen on the Pokemon market. Who knows? I think it's going to have a trickle down effect for, people are going to have less disposable income. When you have less disposable income, you can't really buy like the luxuries, and Pokemon's definitely a luxury. So could that be a trickle down effect? Possibly. And
yeah,
I think where you will really see that trickle down effect is on the low end stuff. Think anything less than like $200, because all the real high end stuff, anything like, $13,000, $15,000, $20,000 stuff. Now, people buying that stuff is probably not super effective by like the cost of a gallon of gas, or, like milk going from $5 a gallon to $6 a gallon. I don't even know. See, my wife does all the grocery shop. I don't know how much milk costs, but I think it's the people buying the more lower end price points are going to really be affected by like the inflationary numbers that are going to happen. Now, the high end of the hobby, like an example, that Illustrator Pikachu, whether or not you believe that sale is real or not, if it does in fact become real and that $900,000 price point does become true, I promise you, whoever bought that $900,000 card, they're not worried about inflation. But that trickle down economic effect, it could really hurt the Pokemon hobby.
Yeah, I'm just at a place, with the whole situation. I said this before we started the stream, of just I just don't like. I normally like to have intellectual conversations about markets, but like I'm just care more about the human lives that are being lost right now, and just the overall instability in the region and just concerns on what's going to happen next for people's lives. I'm not really thinking about economically, and I'm certainly not thinking about like how it's going to affect the Pokemon card market. But I absolutely agree that I mean, the Pokemon card market is attached to people's spending abilities. And when we think about our spending abilities, inflation is certainly going to, play a role. If we have significant increases on things like, I mean, the major things might be things like gas, specifically tied to Russia. You might see huge increases in gas prices and things like that. And if people don't have money for those types of things or need to allocate more money for those types of things, they'll spend less money on cards in aggregate overall, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
But yeah, and where the whole thing goes is it's scary and it's sad and it's war. It's pretty stunning, and emotionally I'm pretty don't really know how to feel, and just kind of my mind just goes to just the families, right, and the people who have loved ones there or who are there and are worried about their loved ones and that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
and in Russia too.
In Russia too. That's what I was just about to say. Absolutely.
And, I don't know how deep. We don't need to go too deep into all that stuff, but that's just my honest answer. And of course, people
True.
are bring up Ukraine, and because it's a major world event that's happening right now. It's really
right.
intense.
I would just say that the fact that we're all able to have a discussion based off of what's the expected value going to be of our non-consequential collectibles going to be, as opposed to, oh my God, I can't buy food this week and my apartment building just got bombed out.
Yeah, it makes what we're doing both silly and ridiculous, but also, and a little bit dissociative, a little bit surreal.
We should all just feel fortunate that we are here and not there, I think. Because
and then try to have some, respect for the people who are there and just kind of pray for them.
It is an interesting question. I think maybe the time for that conversation is down the road though, but I'm sure we've all thought it at some point though too.
But yeah, it's
Neogenesis.
Scary times.
Yeah.
It's a real shame, and also just after the pandemic and just the world's been through a lot. A lot of people have been through a lot.
Yeah, kicking right off of a pandemic too. That's a good point. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Interesting question here for you, Jake. I'd be interested to hear your take on this. XI Platinums asks, Neogenesis PSA 9 first edition hollow, and he doesn't specify, so I'm assuming he means all hollows. His statement has to be the best investment. Impossible to get the 10s.
Which
top
card
of 9. That's what I'm trying to. I'm not sure if he means all of them, because that's the first time I saw him chime in. If you want to collect the set, you have to buy the 9s.
Can you would you mind copying and pasting the question in chat for us in our Zoom chat, just so I can see it? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so Neogenesis PSA 9 first edition hollows have to be the best investment. Impossible to get the 10. Top of 9 is still fairly low. Okay. If you want to collect the set, you have to buy the 9.
So I think this could be my thought I wanted to extrapolate out of this was Neogenesis first edition also, but copy paste for any set where a 10 set as your average collector is extremely unlikely that you're ever going to complete. Basically the value behind collecting the 9 sets. It's just the more practical everyday man's set. What do you think, is the likelihood that's where the real wheelhouse is, so to speak, is in the nines and not really the tens. Especially on sets where you're never going to complete the tens. Very few people are ever going to complete a 10 set.
I think where a set like that comes really tricky is it's in the question itself. It's like there's a lot of sets that even when they increased in price, you probably still had a lot of raw in your collection that maybe were worthy to be graded. Like you, Joe, you're a perfect example. You got tons of binder collections. Now, your chances of grading a lot of tens, and especially for sets like that, are almost next to impossible to grade. It's going to be next to impossible. So, your only option in order to even think about completing that master set is you're now going to have to go on the secondary market to kind of like answer what you were saying, like it's going to be very expensive. So, yeah, nines maybe could be the play, but that's tough. I mean, how many people are out there really completing master hollow sets of Neo Genesis? Probably it's probably not as many people just because of that reason.
Right. Um,
Yeah, I mean they're definitely great cards that are first appearances, many first appearances of Pokemon in, the hollow slot. Um
What's even like
Dude,
what promo was in like the Neo Genesis had a light and dark box. Was it the light as
Light
Azumarill?
Azumarill.
Is it
It
what's
was
like the pop report on just like the light Azumarill, one of the theme deck cards?
that was Destiny. There was no Light
yeah,
Azumarill
Oh, Neo
in
Destiny.
Genesis.
yeah.
The the
So I was
Genesis
what are you guys talking about? I'm
Yeah,
missing.
yeah, yeah. Sorry.
the Genesis theme
That's all
decks
good.
were the Jump Pluff deck
Yep.
and the Kingdra deck.
King. Yeah, yeah. That's right. The King deck. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think obviously like they're the best investment is like, it's some, I mean, generally speaking, I mean, my mind goes two places. One, right? I think that so many things are potentially good investments across the board, including some modern stuff, depending on price point.
Sure.
Okay. So, but that out of the way, what do I think is sort of like the safest, is the most likely to just kind of, trickle up over time? If Pokemon does well, I think these are going to be among, you know, this base set first edition are probably going to be maybe the two best, because they're your two base sets, basically. This is the base set for the second generation.
Do you think that there's any, and this could go to the information little plug for the Discord, little of the Patreon, the latest one that you guys did where you extrapolated out the market cap. Do
Mhm.
you think that there's any relationship between max market cap in a set and at a point in which nines and then eights become the play? In other words, is there an actual threshold we should be looking at where the market cap indicating the popularity of a set, perhaps, um, the value of the market cap has gotten so high that it's wise to start to look into investing into a tier down, basically. So like first ed base, like you can really play into the eights and the sevens, but you can't do that so much with like nice. But not so much with other sets like Neo Destiny Unlimited. I was grabbing one. Eights and Neo Destiny Unlimited really aren't at that level yet where they're really sought after. But do you think that there's any sort of tie between the sets that have the highest expected value in the market cap versus when it starts to make sense to go bump down a grade? And could that be predicted out and like chart it in any way?
Um, Probably not. I mean, I would think that theoretically there should be evenly distributed so that everything, like every card, should be at the right value. So the tens should be selling for a certain amount, the nines are selling for a certain amount, the eights, the sevens, and whether you buy the 10, the nine, the eight, or the seven, they're all potentially fairly equal quality investments. Now, I think that one thing that people say, which I think is really wrong, I hear people say definitively that the 10 is the best investment, or the 8 is the best investment, or the 9 is the best investment. We don't know. There's lots of theories about, for example, like the tens definitely have the most explosive upside, because the tens, it is possible that somewhere down the line that there are a certain amount of extremely wealthy people who just want the tens, and there just aren't enough to go around, and they all way bid those up. And rather than the hobby being like super like millions and millions of people who are collecting, like if you have a hobby that has millions and millions of people collecting, then there's actually going to be really good value in like the 9s, the 8s, the 7s, the 6s, the 5s. But if you have a hobby that's dominated by super wealthy people and does not have that much
top heavy,
right, then it would be top heavy, and the really high values would be on the top. But there's no way of predicting that. And it's I think that people should, just go off of their own instincts. What do you value? When you buy the lower grades, you are hedging against the risk that we are in a grading mania, and that in the future people won't care as much about grading, is something I always like to tell people. When you have a 6 or a 7, you still have the exact same card.
Sure.
And you're getting it at a fraction of the price. Now, all right, I can see another scenario. So I can see a scenario where people just don't care as much about grading over time. I think it's unlikely.
Yeah.
I think the most likely scenario is that most of the stuff is priced pretty correctly. I think if you buy a 9 or a 10 of most cards, you are going to see the same percentage increase. So that's my personal opinion overall. And you're going to see maybe 50% of the 9s do better, 50% of the 10s do better. But it's very possible that the 10s do much better. I think it's hard for me to imagine that the 9s do much better, but than they're already doing. But
so I think I phrased my question wrong. What I think I meant to say was, let me get this right too. It seems like there are certain sets that have an established, predictable market at different grade tiers.
Yeah.
Base first edition has an established price history for
where the Charizard will have 10 through 1 pretty much.
Right. At what point does another grade tier down start to establish a serious price history? You know what I mean?
Generally it's the $25-$50 rule, but it also is so people do not grade. So people will grade, $5 and under cards generally, when in 9 they can sell for, 25, and in 10 they can sell for 50 if the grading fee is around $10.
Right.
That provides incentive for people to then grade enough. And then if people are buying enough of them, it will establish a price point at those prices. When we're talking about things that are higher value than that, it all depends on the premium that the graded card is getting over ungraded. So for example, 5s and 6s often sell more ungraded. They sell for more ungraded as binder copies of like a Shining might sell for more ungraded. And you have people who hope it's going to get like a 7, 8, or 9 and are willing to spend more. So sometimes when you have a market like that, there is going to be less incentive to grade out those 5s, 4s, 3s, and 2s. And then you're not going to be able to have as many of those on the market selling. And so you're not going to be able to establish these price points. Also, there are cards that are like the Shinings. There are less of those that are extremely beat up. And I think, this is my personal opinion, I think part of it is because those cards were really hard to pull and they were special even back then.
And they weren't playable either.
Yeah. And now you think Charizard would have the same effect, but it was like literal, I don't know. That's highly speculative.
I think that's actually good speculation. That's actually an interesting point.
I just don't think you're gonna. I think you're gonna have. I'm not sure how many beat to hell 1, 2s, and 3s are out there of those cards. I mean, there certainly are. There are some, but you'd think there'd be more in the pop report if there were a lot more out there. But again, it might be because they're not like the first edition Charizard. It's also an element of authenticity, I think, on that card. I don't know.
Right. I'm just thinking, so here, this is my reason for asking the question. When going to list my base set cards that I got back recently, looking at the price history of a first edition base set Hitmonchan.
Yeah.
There's in a PSA 7. There's an established price history there of what's an acceptable sold listing for this card.
Yeah.
When is there going to be an acceptable price history for a PSA 7 first edition Neo Destiny Hollow? Like, when is it knocked down that many levels? Like is or if ever? And that, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of the sets only really have established price histories at 9s and 10s, and then anything below 9 and 10 is any man's game, depending on the day of the week and how people are feeling. I'm just wondering if any other sets are ever going to get to that point where, you know, 8s and 7s actually have an established price history.
So I could think of one set off the top of my head, like Skyridge from, again, this is
okay.
It's much lower amount of cards graded, but I could pretty much look at like most 8 hollows for Skyridge, and I could tell you where that card's going to kind of land.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I think
would say that
true though for every set, like 8s, I think, I think 8s are pretty. I think it's when you get to 6s and 5s and maybe even 7s a little bit. Where
is it just a rule of attrition? Are we talking like baseball terms here, where eventually, you know, it's going to be the 1950s Honus Wagner, and
it's going to be all about authenticity probably eventually. So if there are more and more fakes, you're going to see more and more, and the prices go up. So let's imagine a future, right? Where let's take a 10 and it's selling for $50,000, and the 9 is 10, let's see even more, $100,000, and the 9 is selling for 25,000 or something, and your 8 is 15 to 20, and you know your 7 is 10, and your 6 is 8,000, right. Blah 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 blah. And there are people who have been putting out a lot of fakes.
True.
Now grading your PSA 1, 2, or 3 is going to be worth $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 potentially.
Gotcha.
I'll give you an example of like the Superman 1940 Superman.
Okay.
That is graded in every single grade, including ungradable and beat to hell and
wow.
authentic, and it's still worth over $1,000 in beat to hell condition. And that's a good example of like it authenticates it, it legitimizes it. And it's just owning that card is an achievement. Right. And there aren't that many of them. I don't know if Pokemon ever, like, I don't know if all of WotC ever gets to that point. So far, the only card that is at that point, I think, is the Charizard first edition. I don't even think Lugia first edition is really at that point. I think the only card that was printed enough, because you also have to have, part of it's having that lot of copies to really establish the price point. So, for example, interestingly, with the Superman, the prices are really well established on PSA 1, 2, and 3, but not on anything higher because they're less higher than that.
Wow, interesting. That's
that's
cool though. Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah, where it's really hard to find, 6s, 7s, 8s. They don't come up.
Right.
Those might sell for $30,000 when the 1s and 2s are selling for $1, $2, maybe even more. So, whatever. I'm throwing out some there, but that's where my mind goes to how.
No, that's actually very helpful. That's exactly where I was going for it. Basically, the authenticity aspect of it does add a lot of value, and I don't think Pokemon's ever going to ever. I mean, God, who knows? Many decades from now, but yeah, that makes complete sense because I was definitely wondering, at what point should we even be caring about, a PSA 7 Giovanni's Nidoking first edition? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I like graded slabs. I like the way they look. I like the way it feels. I like the protection. I like the displayability. But I also love binder collections. So, I like both. And I don't mind low grade. Like I've been picking up, I pick up like PSA 5, PSA 4 shadowless, base set hollows for $20, $15. I love them. $15-$20 for a graded shadowless card, like hollow.
That's cool. Yeah.
And I don't care if they go up. I just think they're cool, So, and that's cheaper than if I grade them myself,
Right.
And if I try to buy that card raw, it's probably $25 in that condition. So I'm getting it under. So here's an example where you're getting it, and so there's no incentive to grade those, right? Because you can actually get more money for them raw rather than grading. So there's an example of where people made mistakes grading them, and now their prices have come back down. People are not going to keep grading them, so it's going to be harder to fill out the price points at those lower ends.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know about you guys, but I am getting knocks from my fiance to come spend some time with her.
No worries.
I could talk for a little while. I already got
I
yelled at
know
for
I
running
could
down the stairs.
easily talk for another couple hours, but I feel like I'm going to get
Yeah, I could talk for a little while more if you're up for it, Jake. I got yelled at already because I can't run downstairs anymore because it's my wife was like, "You better stop fucking running downstairs." I'm like, "Sorry."
Yeah.
Jake, I'm actually curious personally, do you ever have is there any ever static about as much time as you do spend behind the camera? And how do
Never.
you No?
No,
Okay. All right.
never.
Never,
Are you
never.
kidding? Who wouldn't love this in their house?
Yeah.
No, it's something that uh no, she's very supportive, and we have lots of conversations about money around the hobby and what this will look like in the future when we get
That makes
married, type
sense.
of thing. And she just wants to feel on board with all of the financial decisions and wants to understand my investment strategies and how much I allocate to different things. As far as like the time spent on the channel, definitely has been an issue in our
Yeah,
relationship.
that's what I was talking about,
and,
was more
and
that.
feeling like you're always hanging out with other people. Because I do this, I hang out with people in physical life and, all sorts of things. And, it's quality time's important. So I, yeah, it's always a juggle. It's always a balance,
Mhm.
but yeah, no, I mean, we communicate about it.
I was definitely curious because, man, you're doing a stream like every other day. I'm turning around, Jake's talking to someone.
I wish. I mean, I feel like I've been not doing enough, but yeah,
Wow. I,
yeah. I feel like if I can make 2 videos a week, that's pretty good. That's sort of, I like to do at least one a week.
yeah, but your 2 videos are like 3-hour videos. They're not.
They're long. I mean, part of what helps is I start pretty late, so my girlfriend just goes to sleep.
Oh, that's okay. That works. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I'm in the same boat. Yeah.
yeah. So that's part of why I scheduled them for this hour, because I usually get off work at 7ish, and then we have dinner together, spend a little time together, and then by 9:30, I can come on guilt free or fairly guilt free.
Gotcha. Yep. Makes sense.
Yeah.
You guys
You
want
seen
to?
any good questions, Jake? I saw one. I guess I'm not really like staying up to on the top, but somebody put, what did they write? They said like Mark or Jamie Scott said market is dropping drastically. I don't agree with that. And the reason why is it depends, what are you looking at? I feel if you're very like, like put the blinders on and you're only looking at certain areas of the market, you'll be like, yes, it's dropping. But I think the problem is the areas that are dropping are the areas like Jake and my channel. And I'm sure Joe was thinking the same thing that a year ago when you were preaching, like, be mindful of these cards from these sets selling at these prices or this product selling at certain prices. What I'm starting to see with the parts of the market that I feel are really dropping and going down low are all the areas that are exactly like what I thought was going to drop. Now, I'm looking at cards like the most recent PWCC auction had, or not this one, but the one before had a PSA 10 first edition Raichu sold. I wanted to make a play at it. I was like, there was a sale real recently on eBay that had sold for like 12 grand or something. And then it was a PSA cert one below the one that sold on PWCC. So whoever sold the one on eBay, because it was one cert number off, also sold the one on PWCC. And I was like, oh, nice. The one on PW or on eBay sold for way too much money. Let me go buy the one on PWCC because I think it's going to sell for a lot less. And it didn't. With buyer's
Really?
premium, it ended up selling for like 13 grand with buyer's premium. I'm like, oh my God, this thing just sold on PWCC for way more than it sold on eBay.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it depends where you're looking. Like,
Sure.
if you're looking at modern cards, if you're looking at modern sets, if you're looking at CGC slabs, if you're doing like a lot of the things that we talk about all the time, it's very easy to find areas of the hobby that drop. But then if you look at, well, what was the most recent sale of the Illustrator Pikachu before 2 days ago? It
Yeah,
was $350,000. Well,
Hmm.
what's the now most current sale? $900,000. So it's all perspective. It's all what you're looking at. I promise you, the Skyridge reverse hollows, the market is not going down. There's nobody as in depth in that market in the world besides me.
Yeah, I know
Why?
you want to get a full master set. Yeah, I know.
Every single sale that has ended in the last,
I graded a bunch of them recently. I think they're going to come back.
well,
Nice.
well, like for
I think
everyone that's ended in the last
I think
13 months, I've watched every sale. I promise you. There's certain areas of the market that has not dropped.
I'll sell you my tens if you want them.
Well, if you could do good prices, I'm pretty cheap
Oh yeah,
guy. So.
for sure. I'm looking to make no money, so
Did
I'll
you? What did you? What was a bulk of them? Were they rares or uncommons, commons?
all sorts of things. I think I had some crystals in there too, reverses.
All right. Well, if you hit a Charizard reverse, we'll talk.
I didn't spend Charizard.
Okay.
But yeah, take it from someone who bids on 10,000 things, in a month and on the entire hobby, basically every type of card. The hobby is not gone down this month from last month overall. It's the same overall. And that the other thing I will tell you is that if a card goes down 20% from one auction to another, and it's not a card that sells like 10 times a day, that is not going down in price, because the next auction it might go back up 20%. So
That's fair.
These move rapidly depending on who wants it. There are people who impulse buy cards for $30 over what it just went in auction an hour earlier. There are people who, get a really good deal on this auction, and then the next auction goes for $50 more, and you're like, whoa, the card doubled in value. No, that's not. When I was talking a few months ago, and I was like, we have seen, 70, 80% drops in 90% in some cards, and pretty much 40 to 50% across the entire board of almost the entire hobby. And then you had 20, 30% maybe drops on E-series or certain other items. That was really significant across the board drop. That's the hobby dropping as a whole, with some things dropping more than others. We're in a much more stabilizing up and down period. I'll let you guys know if we everyone
Please
in the know if there's like I see a real sudden shift in either direction. If I had to guess, I would say I'm seeing a shift up and a consolidation and a slight shift up on certain things, but there's still so much supply coming back. And I mean, when you look at like Sword and Shield supply, the amount of supply that keeps hitting those cards, I wouldn't expect those cards to move anytime soon, or cards like Hidden Fates or Shining Fates or,
Right.
I wouldn't expect them to be moving anytime soon.
I think for stuff like that, the more super modern stuff that was just heavily printed, and a lot of that was just in the backlog of grading, that is not really, I would consider like a big dip or a big crash. That, in my opinion, is just market correction. Okay, you guys went out and bought Charizard V's from the Champion Path ETB for $150 for the first ones in PSA 10. Well, now that there's 10,000 of those graded, guess what? That's a market correction. That's not that. No one's going to say, oh, the price of that card crashed. It's like, no, the price of that card corrected.
And Jamie's saying he means more for the last year. Absolutely. In that sense, certainly we had a bubble burst, like 100%. Don't let anyone tell you differently. We had a bubble in Pokemon, and in this collectible hobby burst by the numbers.
Why do you think I have no more graded cards, or all the cards that were extras are all gone? Because we were in a bubble that I sold out.
Yeah. And everything across the board.
Yeah.
Kai says $2 Jono, Pokenomics dabbing NFT when? Like, I'm waiting, to be honest. Yeah, I'm real big NFTs guy. Oh boy. Let's see. Do you think jumbo graded cards will ever gain in popularity?
Ooh, good question.
I
From
would say if box toppers don't gain in popularity first, I think jumbo cards would be. I would think that would be my guess that that would be the normal progression. Is that you would go like, I'll start at Legendary Collection, work my way to Expedition Aquapolis, Skyridge, get those box toppers, then go for the more jumbo cards. But prices for jumbo cards, especially graded because there's so few of them, are pretty crazy when you think about it.
I'm going to retire on this one right here next to me.
Nice.
What is it?
Shadow Lugia.
Little Shadow Lugia.
So I put these as a backdrop to my streams, and I have at least in every stream I have people like gnawing at the bit for these things. These winter stamp jumbo cards from
Yeah, I was just
Wizards.
gonna say.
They are pretty cool. I've always liked jumbo cards ever since the original Japanese ones where they had the bird trio promo jumbo card. I've always personally liked them. I do collect them. I recently picked up a couple. So the Nintendo made the winter stamped ones too. There's the Combuskin, the Combuskin, the Marsh Stomp, the Oron Berry, and I can't remember the fourth one off the top of my head. But I did not have a couple of those, so I picked those up. And they're not cheap. They're not cheap, and you don't find them graded ever. So I would be interested to see if people started to grade those. I do think it's an underlooked at little area of the market. They're hard to find. They're hard to grade. They're hard to find in good condition. Because no one sleeved them. I mean, what the hell? You couldn't even buy sleeves for them back then.
You got to get these big sleeves.
Yep. Well, we
Okay.
can get them now, but like nobody knew about those things.
Yeah, I have some of the big
I
top
always
loaders.
my jumbos. I just kept the jumbos. I was just into
Cool.
cool, man.
Any other questions you guys see?
I'm checking how much the Shadow Lugia is worth because I think it's funny. Let's see. Yeah, all right. All right.
Let me guess. Let's take a guess.
Yes.
120.
I'm saying, all right. Yep, about there. 100, 120, maybe 200, depending on condition. All right. Okay. I got this thrown in for free in a lot, so okay.
Some of them are up there. Yeah, some of them are hard to find.
So I see a lot of people talking about PWCC. So literally yesterday, because I wasn't sure because the Northeast got hit a little hard with like ice and everything. And I wasn't sure if I'd make it to the post office. I sent out a PWCC weekly submission.
Nice.
So my last PWCC submission, I went to zero on my balance. I had to pay the remainder with my credit card. You have no clue how psychologically I was like, oh my God, what have I done? Like, I haven't been to zero on a PWCC account in forever. Like, I would say like since the very first monthly auction and all the weeklies and everything. And I always have money in my PWCC account. And I let it go to zero. And then I went in the negative. I was like, I got to send more cards. So everything I sent was literally just to replenish the PWCC money.
Interesting. Just so you can get basic. Why do you care so much about the PWC? Why do you put more of a value in PWCC money than bank account money?
I don't put more money into it. It's just like
Well,
all that money is just trade in hands, man. Because the way I look at it is I'm selling stuff that I don't want to acquire things that I do want. Now, the problem is when you do too much of the acquiring, you're holding on to that stuff and it's just sitting in your vault and it's not going back out there. So as I do that, acquiring and all the stuff that I'm not wanting is slowly like trickling out of the collection. That amount of stuff that I don't want is getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Oh,
but
so
stuff that I do want is getting larger.
That makes sense. Whatever you buy, you keep in your vault. You don't ship it to you.
Yeah, so I don't even ship stuff because like I look at how much it costs to ship and I'm just like, yeah, it's not worth it.
Interesting.
Like I don't because they want
these might as well be NFTs for you then.
They want like they want to insure my packages for what my cards are worth and stuff. And I'm like,
it's like 10 to 25 bucks.
Yeah, I'm not spending $25 to ship my own card to myself. I'll keep it in my vault and I'll look at it through my phone.
Oh my
People call
That's-
me
I'm-
cheap. You're your own. That's
I
okay.
told you I am a cheap
In the
person
chat.
in this.
Is Mason in the chat? Because now we got a new champion. I can't be hated on anymore.
Mason's gonna have a field day with that one.
I'm like disgustingly cheap when it comes to this hobby, but like my collection wouldn't be what it was if I wasn't constantly
Yeah,
grinding.
okay, all right, that's true. There's some.
One thing if you like want to sell them, then obviously that makes sense. But if you're like, if that's your collection, I never understood.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
But
It's
there are
just-
other people I've heard do that too, who like their collection is at the vault, and
They're NFTs. You're never gonna see them.
and it's
No.
more for it's more a safety thing when they talk to me about it. They're afraid that it's going to like get stolen or something. But then it's
no,
like
that's-
then
mine's about the shipping to ship it to me.
it's like
You know-
spend like $4,000, but you don't want to spend like the 25
Now,
shipping.
do you get the free? I get free shipping to PWCC.
Oh,
Ooh.
I never even knew that was a thing.
You can email them and they'll send you a label. They're just like, so I have a guy, I text him and he's like, yeah, tell me how big your box is. I'll send you a label.
Really?
Yeah.
I never even knew I could do that.
There you go. I just saved you more money on shit.
I just spent $16.10 for a medium flat rate box to send 23 cards. Damn it. That's $16 I could have had back.
I don't know how. I mean, the last time I did, I shipped them like 300 cards. So I don't know if there's a lower limit, but you could probably talk to them. They've never told me no so far, so I don't know.
Jamie's saying it's like $20, brother. Don't be so tight. No, you guys don't understand. I am just tight with my money. It's funny though, because I'm like this in my real life too. Just like all my purchases, my wife would be like, oh, I want to buy this. I'm like, I don't know. But then I'll be like, well, I'll spend a couple $1,000s on this.
I do the same thing. I'm so frugal. I live that SM Pratt lifestyle where it's like, I don't even want to buy socks. Like I don't buy anything. Like, my God, I'm so cheap in real life. Like my fiance hates it. Like I don't ever throw anything out. But I grew up poor. I grew up really poor. And I mean my grandmother was a depression child, and it's
Yeah.
fix it up, something, wear it out, make do or do without. Like I grew up with those expressions. So no,
Yeah,
like I don't.
was a Holocaust survivor family, so very much the same. Just very like save, be very cautious, careful. Like you can't trust the government. You can't trust other
the
people.
banks.
My
Yeah,
ex-wife was Jewish, and her family was a Holocaust survivor, and they told me
Yeah.
all the stories and stuff. Yeah, same.
My grandmother used to store cash in the freezer. When she passed away, there was
Cold
just like
hard cash, Jay. Cold hard cash.
cold hard cash. Yeah,
We
exactly.
found little boxes of little pieces of string in my grandmother's attic because she saved everything, including like newspaper clippings, string, because you never knew when you might need that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Crazy.
growing up, my grandfather had this old station wagon in his backyard, like super old. And I was on there. We had like, you remember those old school metal swing sets that when you would like rock on the seesaw, it would come up like back and forth. We
yep.
had one of those. I was super young and I was on that. And my grandfather was in the front seat of the station wagon. And I walked over there. He had a huge wad of cash like this. And I saw it. And he saw that I saw it. And he goes, here, I'm going to give you $10, but you have to promise me you can't tell anyone that you saw me do this. And I was like, I'd never seen $10 in my life. I was like, okay, sure. Like years later, he died. And then I was sitting at the table and I was like, and my dad and my grandma were at the table. And I'm like, Dad, I see grandpa's old station wagon's gone in the backyard. And my dad's like, yeah, I scrapped it. And then I was like,
Oh,
did you take all the money out before you scrapped it? And at that point, it was like you could hear a pin drop. Like the whole room went like absolutely silent. And they're like, what are you talking about money? And then I told them the story. No clue. They just
oh
scrapped
my
it.
God.
Station wagon with like a fat and like an old coffee can or
That's-
like,
Wow, that's funny.
yeah. But I didn't know. I was young when
No.
I tell that story once in a while. All right, let's get back to Pokemon.
Right. We're t-
Inner Geometry said PWCC is great tax evasion for seller.
Ooh,
probably right.
heard something about that for everyone. So the green shiz, I
Not
shouldn't say
evade
anything.
taxes. We don't invade taxes. Don't evade your taxes, please.
No,
Yeah.
not about evading taxes, but I heard through a reliable source, I'll say, that PWCC is highly considering sending out 1099s this year. So
Hmm.
might
That would,
might not be for much longer.
if they did that, there would be a lot of people would be like, what the hell?
That was one of my last reason, my bastions for still sending there, honestly.
I,
Um
I always pay my taxes. Always.
well, if you don't get a 1099, you
Oh,
do
I
have to
just pay it all. I just pay, pay it all. Everybody out there, pay all my taxes.
I love the government for any government official watching.
But no, he's right though. I mean, PWCC, a lot of people do use it for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right. Let's see.
do, do, do.
Can we talk about the PSA 10 Japanese crystal Lugia that sold on PWCC recently for 11K when there was a buy it now for 6K on eBay? It's just because it was a week 10, man. That's why. No, I have no idea. I didn't look.
I didn't see that either.
Yeah.
I don't follow Japanese. I didn't even see that.
Although you do in all actuality, you do have to check that because occasionally you do have these just beat to hell 10s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is it?
I am always interested in the people that overpay. And I've seen that happen, maybe not so much PWCC. I've seen it happen on eBay, where an eBay auction will end significantly higher than like a buy it now price. I
People
don't
get
know
in
if it's
bidding
just,
wars. I have that going on a micro scale in my streams. I'm literally selling the same thing round and round and around, and I get two people that they just don't want to be outbid by each other, and they just bid it up a dollar. They're like, "You're not going to outbid me." So I'm sure that goes on eBay too. People are like, "Oh hell no, I ain't losing this auction." Click, 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 and there you go. They don't take the time to go check the stuff that's already available. That happens a lot. I would like to take a moment and thank all Pokemon collectors, by the way, for being absolute fantastic buyers. Because I also sell Transformers, and that hobby is horrible as hell to deal with. Freaking Transformer buyers on eBay. It's a nightmare. I can't stand those people. But it makes me very grateful that our hobby is mostly very pleasant people to deal with.
Professor Oak wants to organize a charity event.
Cool idea.
yeah.
Loads
Yeah,
of
I'd be totally down for that.
Ukraine. Yeah, let us know.
Yeah.
Um,
Is the PWCC the buyer's premium? Has it been like pushing you guys away at all?
no,
No, you mean as a seller or as a buyer?
As a buyer? I mean, as a seller,
Alright,
it's nice
good.
now because you get 100%, assuming your thing still sells for PS or eBay comp, you know?
Yeah, as a buyer, no. I mean, it's just math. It's just about doing the math on it. So I pay the same amount I'm willing to pay. I just have to add in the buyer's premium, which it does for you automatically. So
So my logic with that be if you're already on PWCC, you're kind of already an elite buyer anyway. So you're probably able to do a little bit of math before you buy stuff.
and
You're
they
not,
do it for you, so you don't even
yeah.
have to. Yeah, I didn't buy anything for 3 weeks, and then last week I bought like $300 of just a bunch of random stuff because some stuff went back under my buy prices.
Jake, how much would it cost to get a peek at your buy sheet?
I
I'm just teasing.
would just take a lot of the fun out of the hobby for games.
I just want to import those macros into eBay. Jake's buy sheet.
I wonder if the day, I don't know. Do you think the days are going to come back where we start to see people start liquidating like big, near mint binder collections and stuff? Because
I hope so.
I
That'd
haven't
be-
seen a lot come up.
I passed on a really nice, it came up through, do you do Facebook groups for Pokemon? See,
No,
there's some good stuff that comes up in there.
I don't like putting my real name out there.
I, make another account.
Yeah.
Um, I came across a base through Aquapolis master set. This guy was selling a master set of everyone with duplicates of a lot. And he won it 16.5.
Hmm.
16.5. And it looked, as many of the pictures as I could tell, it looked, but I was talking to him on it on the side, and he's like, look, I got a guy coming in cash from the group. He's like, I got a guy coming tomorrow in cash. I was like, well, if it doesn't, I mean, he's obviously going to buy it 16.5. But I was like, look, if that goes through, I mean, I'll fly down there for that. I was like, that's insane. So yes, there are good deals still out there for lots of near mint master sets and binder sets and stuff. I've seen a lot of it still.
Yeah, I think we're at a point where they've just decreased in value so much that we have a lot less people willing to sell their childhood cards again, which is like was more the norm forever. So it's it got to the point though where I was being contacted by friends of friends, like some people knew that I did this now, and so every single week I was contacted by friends of friends, 3-4 times a week
Wow.
to ask me to take a look at their collection and tell them how much it was worth and tell them how to sell it and get rid of it, basically, because they all heard that Pokemon was like you could finally sell it and make money and all these types of things, and it was sort of getting out there to like the general public. So yeah, we're just not. And so since then, prices have fallen a huge amount on a lot of those cards. And, I was watching auctions. I would have paid like $1,000 and people were paying like $12,000 in auction for a bunch of like raw cards that look played. And like, I think people just thought they were mint and like they didn't, and they were going to grade them and make a fortune. There's all this horrendous info out there. People like there were videos made where people were sharing information like unlimited base set Charmanders for like $1,000, like in a binder, and that they were like rare because they were old. Like those were the types of content and videos that were out there that were circulating. Not someone who's claiming market knowledge, but just like an influencer just kind of talking and sharing that sort of thing. So yeah. There was this idea and sentiment out there that it's like, if you have an old binder of Pokemon, it's going to be worth like $10,000. Like if you have a Squirtle and a oh my God, if you have a Charizard, you can retire. It's like a normal base Charizard. It's like, no, like that's worth about $400 and it's great.
Yep. Yeah.
And sell it immediately because that card will be worth like $250 probably.
You want a Charmander, go get a brush fire deck, go get a 2-player starter deck, get it sealed, you'll get it minted.
Congratulations, you get Charmander.
I always try to tell people that Charmander is the most printed set of all time because of those decks, and those decks were massively printed. So we're talking about like 70 million plus easy just for freaking unlimited Charmanders, and lots of them still in perfectly mint condition.
Well, the rumor is that the 2-player starter decks got 2 million printed. That's the rumor. So if that's the case, you get 4 Charmanders just in that. So that's 8 million, not including however many are so there's 4 in the brush fire deck too. Yeah. So that would be different because those theme boxes only came in. There's 8 in a display case. You would get 2 brush fire decks. So that's 8. However many of those display cases, not including packs, there's a lot of Charmanders.
Yeah. Yeah, I just threw out 70 million, but I mean, that's my estimate.
It's a lot.
I think I'm going to have to get going.
No problem,
Good
man.
talking to you, Joe.
Absolutely, guys. It's been a pleasure. It's been a blast as always.
Yeah, are you doing a whatnot stream tomorrow at 5 a.m.? You could give that a shout out.
8 a.m. I get to sleep in.
All right,
everybody out there, go buy
a shout out
pack of Brilliant Stars.
Support Echo. Buy one of those overpriced. Accurate.
Yes,
price.
Come buy an overpriced pack from me. It'd be much appreciated. Yes, need to feed the cats.
Invest. Fire emoji. You got it.
Stonks, G.I. Joe. There's G.I. Joe packs tomorrow.
There you go.
Oh yeah, to the moon.
Oh my
All right,
God.
Joe. It's good
All
seeing
right,
you.
guys. Thanks. See you guys later.
Right.
Night.
Let's see what else we got here. Pokemon Puzzles, can you think of any tangible collectible that has seen extreme growth that has ever went to zero? Not $100 Beanie Babies. I'm talking huge gains without a disaster. Can Pokemon ever go to zero?
So I think Beanie Babies would be a tough argument because I think on the very high end for the, I'm not a Beanie Baby expert, but I want to say for the very high end for the super rare Beanie Babies, I think they still sell like over four figures.
Oh yeah, tens of thousands.
Yeah, so I would say that that's not like a great example. I now, if you're going to talk like all the super modern Beanie Baby stuff that was overly printed stuff like that, then it's worth
Produced, yeah.
pennies. Um,
Um,
but an example, I mean, besides like the tulip bubble kind of stuff like that, which is famous, but
Hummel figurines are a pretty good example. Like, not worthless, but like things like porcelain and pottery has come down in value a lot. Again, worthless, no. Zero generally not. Now, some of it becomes is completely worthless, and there are certain going to be less rare Hummels that are probably worth zero that you probably have to pay someone to pick up from your house because they, would go straight in the trash. Things like Lionel, trains. These are not things that are worth zero by any means, but things that are just not as hot. Yeah, pop culture collectibles in general, they can peter out. Marbles, I think, are one.
yeah, I think a lot of that stuff is like an age demographic thing where it's, a collector kind of just honestly grows so old that they die. Like now there could be a subset within that hobby. Like I could think of an example like Elvis, Elvis stuff. There was tons of Elvis shit back in the day. Now that generation's probably going to grow up and die eventually, given enough time, and that stuff's going to be worthless. But now, let's say you owned an Elvis pair of blue suede shoes that's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or whatever in the museum. Like that's never going to zero. So
I think that, one thing that I've talked about a decent amount on the channel is when something becomes an antique or historic. So antique doesn't necessarily mean valuable. That's just age and old. But when something becomes historic, what we tend to mean by that word is that it's culturally still relevant and likely will be sort of like relevant forever. That's the basic theory. It's an important like human history sort of world event. Now, even those can become less valuable and less important and less relevant, as time goes on, but those tend to stick, the Declaration of Independence, something like that, would probably tend to stick pretty well. Although there could be one day when US is not as big a superpower, when there aren't as much money in the US and the West for something like that. Collectors in other countries don't want something like that, as much. So for example, that's an extreme example, but yeah, Pokemon and pop culture collectibles. I think that Pokemon is historic and could be historic and significant. How historic? How long does that last? I don't know.
I think the real weird thing about Pokemon is I think people are seeing prices, they're seeing hype, and everybody wants to quickly go the bubble. And as Jake mentioned early in this video, there was definitely a large part of Pokemon last year and the year before that was definitely in a bubble. Yeah. But we're coming into this real weird timeline where Pokemon, when you really think about it, it's still in its infancy. And when I say in its infancy, meaning the true collector base and the collector base that has money is just kind of now getting into that income earning time of their lives where they have a lot of disposable income. To say Pokemon in 1999 was a bubble and it popped, it's very, very different of a conversation because that was just an age group of people that grew out of Pokemon. It was very different than the collector base today. Like, I'm not going to now wake up tomorrow and go, you know what? I think I'm finally too old for Pokemon. Like, I've made that conscious decision where I think that's very different than like the 99 mania, I guess you'd call it. What do you think about that, Jake? That Pokemon is kind of moving into people with that higher income earning and that it like
It's
we
a
could
point
be in an
I've
infancy.
probably said that 100 times,
Okay.
in the last year on this channel. And I use the word demographics, right? So when we think about demand increasing, we want to think about, will there be more people in the hobby, and will those people have more potential ability to spend? So just exactly what you said. So we're going to have multiple generations, and our generation, even if we don't have multiple generations, theoretically would have more spending power potentially.
I think what I'm most excited about and most interested for in the future is there's just way too many cards right now in Pokemon printed throughout different sets. There's a lot of this stuff in the future I think will be bulk, but I think there's going to be subsets of cards within sets that are going to be just become more and more desirable to people. And those people that I think are going to be finding a lot of those more niche, rarer cards desirable might not even actually be in the hobby yet. Or if they are in the hobby, they're kind of rediscovering it right now. So they haven't even actually made it to those cards. And my thing that I'm finding interesting and I'm excited for is when those people start to make it and discover those cards. Oh, Jake's losing stuff.
Yeah. John Banker says, Jake, you mentioned how you picked up product in Baby Shiny super cheap by using eBay bucks. I've tried researching how to get eBay bucks, but can't find out how. Can you explain how to? So eBay bucks, they used to give it to all of us all the time. We used to get 1% back in eBay bucks, and then they decided, nope, we're not doing that anymore. And now it's sort of it's random. There's no real rhyme or reason to when they do it. They just occasionally much rarer than they used to. I used to get eBay bucks all the time. It's very rare that I get eBay bucks. So I actually didn't really buy Baby Shinies. That was actually on TCG Player, which does a lot more of what they call bonus bucks. And the bonus bucks are basically store credit. So eBay works the same way. So, and basically what it means is that the way eBay works, I think it's every 3 months you get whatever you get in in your bonus bucks, in your eBay bucks, you're able to then, it gives you sort of like a discount code, and then you apply that discount code, on checkout to spend it on something on eBay. Same exact thing on TCG Player. You get store credit, so then you can use that, on a future purchase. And it's basically just, you just have to kind of keep your eye out, like on the Discord from the Patreon. That's one, we shout those out, things like that. We try to pass those around. Those are good info. Those are the best days to buy, generally speaking, particularly if you can get there first thing before a lot of the supply has been bought out. I always fill up my cart out and get ready to go, and then I buy, the first second it opens up.
So Jake, you just mentioned your shinings, and I think you've been talking about those baby shinings in a lot of different lives recently. And I think actually just by you talking about it, I think you've got a lot of people thinking about it now. I personally am not acquiring positions in baby shinings just because this is the way I look at those. And I want to kind of ask you about your thought processes. I'm looking at it in the future as, yes, those cards could definitely, if you're buying them $1, $2, $3 a piece, like, is it out of the realm of all things impossible that they're going to be $5, $6 raw in the future? And then if you do get them graded out, let's say a $10 grading fee, you can sell them for $30, and that's a lot of money. But the way I'm looking at those is that's going to be a lot of work in the future. Are you buying positions in these with the intent of, yeah, I'll just flip them for double raw? Are you still looking at these as this is a gradable play when prices get down? Because I'm just looking at, man, that's a lot of work.
It is 1% of what I'm doing.
Sure.
Maybe 1 to 2%. So it's something I talked about because I think it's really obvious, and I don't think and it was more of just an explanation of like, now the real huge downside of baby shinies, including the one from Hidden Fates that have been out longer, is they printed a freaking ton of Hidden Fates. There's a freaking ton of Hidden Fates left. And there is so much Hidden Fates supply out there right now. There's so much graded at CGC that's still coming back. There's already a lot graded at PSA. and there's a ton of it just sitting on TCG Player, as well as people fire selling, large amounts of them in eBay auctions. Now, the eBay auction lots, now they have already gone up since I was buying them. So a little bit. So I have not bought any in the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So for me, I was paying about 70 cents per baby shiny raw. Now that did not include your EV Charmander, Charmeleon, Lucario, and Garchomp, which are the sort of the more expensive ones. And then graded, I was trying to get them for like $7, $8, $9. I went up to about $11 for PSA 9s, basically. And CGC 9s, and I was paying about like 15 to 20 for like the EVs, the Charmanders, already graded. And then the 10s I was buying for around like 18 to 20 and about 25 to 30. And I bought some of everything. I'm a big fan of Hidden Fates. Part of it was just a collector. It was like I was unable to buy those for many years, and I was just excited to finally be able to buy them because they were so dirt cheap finally for the first time. Those cards are cheaper now than when that set first came out.
Sure.
So it's one of the only things in the hobby that is cheaper now than before the boom. Before the boom, that was more expensive than it is now. So that's in the pro column. At that price point, it's real cheap. Do I think that it's a good way that you are going to make your fortune in Pokemon? No. Do I think you can flip them to make a little bit of quick cash? Sure. Do I think that there's a chance that if you hold those for a while, they're $200 each? Yeah, I think there's a chance. Not ungraded, but like PSA 10s, I think there's a chance. That would sort of be the upside, just in my opinion, given the amount of them that there are. We have never seen a card that has that many copies get to $200 ever in a PSA 10. So it would require a tremendous amount of demand that we have not yet seen in Pokemon, and a tremendous amount of spending power in the future. It easily could never get there. So I want to put a bunch of warnings and disclaimers around all of that and my thinking.
Yeah, and when you talk about picking up these cards already graded at 9s and 10s for, let's call it sub $20, right? I'm always been very interested in the future because we're all assuming PSA, given enough time, does get to that $10 grading tier again. But what happens if they don't get the $10? What if the lowest they ever get is $20?
It would certainly be way in my favor.
I've always been very interested because I know personally, I have some cards that are right now priced way lower than anybody else who, if they wanted to grade today, and especially like some of my more bulky or CGC type stuff. Like there's no way anyone could compete with my price on eBay right now, because if they have to pay $15 to grade it, there's no money to be made there. Yeah. So I've always been interested in like, can there be like a weird subset of buying? Like what can the floor be on these things and stuff like that? Because a lot of that's going to really depend on demand, right? Is the demand in the future to eat up all these lower price slabs that were graded at these lower tiers in order to get that price to that higher grading tier price where there's still money to be made?
Wait, say the question again.
No, so all I'm saying is, because if right now a lot of these cards are graded at lower grading prices. Yeah. So if the lowest PSA grading ever gets to is, let's say, $20. Will there be enough buying pressure to eat up all the lower price stuff? So then it will be worth it to grade again at a $20 tier, where right now, none of those cards you just mentioned are worth it to grade at 20, because you just said you were picking up at $9 or $16.
Yeah. And that's the exact theory, right? That's why it's probably a smart play. It's the same reason I bought commons and uncommon first editions at like $8, $9 a piece. I bought 200 PSA 9 level X's at about $12 to $15 a piece.
That's a great price.
And again, it was a different time period, but it's the same type of logic where it's like the downside risk is like no more of these cards can be graded, even if they're out there at these prices. So as long as there aren't too many already graded in the world for for the demand forever, which is very unlikely if Pokemon does well over time, even though there's a ton of these graded already and a ton of them snuck through, particularly with CGC. CGC is the big culprit, is going to be the big culprit, I think, on these, particularly Shining Fates, because very few Shining Fates have been graded in PSA because of the timing of when that was released.
And that is going to be interesting, like all the super modern stuff. But we saw a lot of that get graded with CGC. Now, maybe some of this modern stuff, that price could get crashed. All these 9.5s when PSA 10s hit the market for all the super modern stuff, we could see that price crash.
So let me give. I usually don't do this, but we're late enough at night. Let me give an example of value. Okay, another card example. So, and this is not the best card that I think I'm buying right now. You should not go out and just like buy every one of these cards. But I just want to give some example of value in the way I think about these markets. So let's look at this like Charizard, and Brexen Rainbow Rare.
Is that from Cosmic Eclipse?
Cosmic Eclipse. Okay.
Yeah, Jake, I've been buying the same card. We must be bidding against each other.
So for example, this card, right? So you have the Burning Shadow Charizard, which there's more than double graded already. And the Burning Shadow set is selling for like around the same price as Cosmic Eclipse. The pull rate, it's easier to get these in 10s for sure, which actually makes less of a 10 premium. It's part of why the 9s are actually can be the better buy, but whatever. There's a lot of you can go back and forth there. But the reason something like this is such a good buy is because in the Sun and Moon era, Rainbow Rares were very hard to pull because there were lots of Rainbow Rares per each set. So I'm just giving an example, right? So for example, when you have 12, 13 Rainbow Rares in a set, if you have 12 Rainbow Rares in a set, your odds of pulling this card is 1 in 34 boxes. Okay. Do the math. 34 boxes at $300. We're talking, what is that, 90,000?
Yeah, Jake, we have to be bidding against each other because I've also been doing the same thing because I don't know if you noticed, but the Lily Full Force, which is also in Cosmic Eclipse, it creeped up in price more than that Charizard. And that should not have happened. Once that happened, it was buy time.
I'll be honest, I bought 25 or so of these already. I have a lot of Rainbow Rares and all sorts of. So part of why I like Rainbow Rares is because they're so hated right now because a lot of people have complete irrational, nonsensical relationship with them
I don't love them
because they suck in Sword and Shield, because they're super easy to pull, and because they weren't good Pokemon largely, and because of things like Champion's Path where you just pulled the same one over and over again. The Gardevoir one is selling for like $40. That Gardevoir is so easy to pull from that. You know how much the Burning Shadows one is selling for? $50. And the Burning Shadows one is incredibly hard to grade, incredibly hard to pull. So there's just a lot of randomness, irrationality, and inefficiency in these types of cards. When you understand that to pull this card costs you, what did I say? It was 34 times 300. It's going to be about 10,000 or something like that. Yeah, 10,200 to pull a single card, and you're buying the card already graded for $70, $80. I'm seeing them go for over 100 or whatever. But there's lots and lots of examples outside of Rainbow Rares that fit that from different eras. But the other reason why a Rainbow Rare is going to be good, and why a Sun and Moon Rainbow Rare, not a Sword and Shield Rainbow Rare, they're overpriced. The Sword and Shield Rainbow Rares are largely overpriced, particularly compared to the Sun and Moon era ones. The Sun and Moon era was so much less printed. There were so many more percent, and they were generally harder to grade. Now, on top of all of that, right now, there's the most negativity towards Rainbow Rares than I think there will ever be in this hobby. And this is my prediction on the demand side, because as these actually age and disappear, people will look back on these and really like them. And these are the chase cards from Sun and Moon. These are the cards. And it's going to, and I saw the exact same thing with Level X's. Everyone's told me when I was buying Level X's, no one likes them. They're ugly. They're hideous. People hate them. Same things with primes. It's not, so whatever. But again, please do not go out there and just if this makes sense to you, apply this type of logic to a variety of things. I normally don't like talking about specific things. I don't want to have effects on the prices, but.
Yeah, and I did the same thing with a similar Rainbow Rare, but it was a Mimikyu from Lost Thunder, and I have the same thought process. But I look at some cards that I'm like, I know you're like anti-reprint guy, and so am I for the most part. But I will look at a card like Evolution's Flying Pikachu, Evolution Surfing Pikachu. How many of those cards exist? A bazillion, right? Now, that's a reprint card, the Black Star promos. But then I'll look at a set like Platinum, Rise and Rivals, right? Those are the secret rares of that set. Well, there's 3 secret rares, right? There's the Pikachu, which is like the original base set Pikachu, but reimagined, very similar to like the reimagined Charmeleon Charizard artwork from Stormfront, but this is from Platinum Rise and Rivals, the Pikachu.
Yeah.
And then the 2 other secret rares in that set is the Surfing Pikachu and the Flying Pikachu. And I'm like, those cards sometimes sell less than an
Evolutions, yeah.
And
because
I just,
Evolutions is the dumbest set of all time.
yeah, I just can't get behind some of this stuff. But I don't, and this is the thing, Jake, and I don't know if there's a real good answer for it, but I don't know why this stuff happens. Like,
it's literal. It's just literal. People see what a person is collecting or buying. They go online. They want that card. They don't even know, like, the vast majority of these people in this hobby, I would say like 95%, have no idea what 3 cards you were just talking about. Probably the majority of people in this chat and in this deep dive of a channel, I would guess 50% know the secret rares you're talking about, because like nobody talks about those. They aren't anywhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, but
add the Hitmonchan, there's a lot of those cards that just nobody talks about, nobody knows about. And it's all price. It's all when someone sees a card, they go onto eBay, they check sold listings, and then they just buy it at the same price as the person before. They're not thinking, okay, what are my other options? And does this one make a lot more sense than this one? And why? Well, this is the first appearance of Xerneas in X and Y, and Xerneas and Yveltal are the 2 key Pokemon, and maybe that's important. Or the Solgaleo, from Sun and Moon, maybe that's important, right? People aren't thinking that way. And the reality is that if this hobby ever closes any sort of gap towards sports, you're going to have people thinking that way. And there's going to be key cards from each generation and each era that are extremely important. And you're going to have kids who grew up with X and Y, with Sun and Moon, who played the games, who got connected to certain Pokemon. And those are going to be the key cards for those Pokemon. And they're going to see humongous growth, in my opinion. Yeah. Again, only if Pokemon does well. And I want to repeat that over and over and over again, because I have no idea. Yeah.
Basic said, hey, I know. I'm sure you know Basic. But I don't know, Jake. So I'll look at, like, with those Surfing Pikachus, like, yeah, there's the Rise and Rival secret rares. But then why don't you just go back to the Black Star the promos, the original ones from, like, 2001? But this is the thing where, if people, like what you were just saying, they ever get to that area, every single set has some kind of chase card, If people want to go and just start completing this stuff, like, man, this hobby could explode. So yeah. Aiden M said what?
And one day these are going to be, right? I mean, we heard the argument, right? Well, modern is tomorrow's vintage, right? And oftentimes that's being said by, in my experience, that is being said by someone who's like stonking and doesn't have that much data. But what's definitely true is that modern ages, and it will feel old. Okay, so there will be a sort of like, there will be a nostalgia, there will be an oldness feeling. It will not just feel like, when something feels brand new, people generally do not pay as much for it, particularly in Pokemon and a lot of other things. There's a window when it's brand new, people want it right away. And you sort of have the impulse type buyers go after it and grab it right away. Then you have this kind of like 3-year-ish gap where you're 4 years somewhere in there, where it's probably most likely people aren't interested. Those who are interested already got it. And then you have the people who are willing to kind of go against the grain. Everyone says rainbow rares are ugly. Everyone says, this set sucks, this set's old. Not me. I think they're great. And we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, well, you could think of that.
everyone said the
Think about
same.
Legendary Collection, right?
Yeah.
Think about base set 2 booster boxes. Oh my
Everyone
God,
said
if
the
I had a
same thing.
time machine, how
Everyone
many
said the
base
same
set
thing
2
to me.
booster boxes I could have bought.
Yeah, I bought a ton of Legendary Collection. A lot of the experts in the hobby were saying, don't buy them. People don't like them. I bought,
I was
tops
saying don't buy them.
carded.
I was,
It's very much the you really should buy what makes sense to you. So if my arguments make sense, fair enough. Apply those to yourself. If Poke Knowledge, if whoever's arguments, people really should stop buying things just because of the price point. Because the price point is high, it means it must be investable. It means it must be good. I think so many very valuable cards in this hobby, I don't believe in them, that people really like them as much as their prices. And I think I feel like people are buying them because they for flexing, and because they're like, well, to have a really good collection, I need to own that card, or that's the key card to buy. So I'm going to pay a lot more for it. There is no reason at all, in my opinion, why this card should be at this price when a freaking Champions Path Charizard in PSA 10 is selling for around the same price as this in PSA 9. That is a hobby that has gone insane. That is an insane. This is a really rare, hard to pull card. There are going to be less of these probably in the world than a lot of first edition hollows from WotC. Now, not in high grade, but we're including all grades. These are hard to pull. This is not a set that I think was, a lot of it was printed. But when we look at like those Champions Path ETBs, and you get every single, one you get, that's already the third most graded card of all time in Pokemon. It's just crazy. So I don't know, whatever, we'll see.
Yeah, and this kind of goes to what you were just saying. John Quinlan said, what will people call current modern in 10 years? Will we just start referring to eras by decades? But kind of what, I guess I misread his question a little bit, but for some people in this hobby right now today, and from the people I've talked to and the people that are really heavily like invested in modern and buying modern, they look at a set like Cosmic Eclipse as being a more vintage set, which we're seeing it roll out in products too. And maybe for you to hear that, or for me to hear that, like Cosmic Eclipse being more vintage-ish, or some of these, look at the prices for team up packs and Lost Thunder and Unbroken Bonds. People that just got in the hobby during the Sword and Shield hype of 2020 probably weren't able to buy those packs because they were sold out. So it's amazing how quick this hobby has moved. That is not vintage. That's why the prices you're able to buy some of the hardest to pull chase cards, like in that set, are still selling at lower than $100. We still have a long ways to go for a lot of this like super modern stuff.
And when we think about a card like this, because I've already showed it, this card is so much harder to pull than a gold star.
Oh, and yeah, definitely. In relative, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And this is what
1
people
out of 72 versus 1 out of 36 booster boxes.
Yeah. And this is also right, 1 out of 72, but there are 12 different possible ones to pull, whereas the Charizard Gold Star, there are 3. Right. So you're going to pull 4 times the amount of those Charizard Gold Stars versus this if you open booster boxes. Now, of course, these booster boxes are worth $300 and they're way more plentiful. I am not comparing this card to the Charizard Gold Star, so don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But you have to understand this card, if we subtract the price of grading, let's say at $20 or $15 or $10 or whatever, I think I was buying these at I think at the bottom was about $65. I think I bought one at 65 to 86-ish. It just makes no sense. $60 to, and again, it has Brexin, and these cards are these team uppy, era cards are also unique and are also going to stand out in and of themselves as having multiple Pokemon, and it has 2 starters on it together. It's a very unique thing. Now I could name at least 50 cards that I would put equally on the value as this. I don't think this is singly like the greatest card. There's all sorts of things that I would put in that sort of tier. And I think a lot of people right now are very, very afraid. And Rudy's telling people don't buy any graded cards. And it's excellent for people like me who I think can differentiate and take calculated risks on certain graded cards. The vast majority of graded cards I would not touch. I would touch basically nothing as an investment in Sword and Shield at all, unless you were a collector and you really enjoy them, or particularly any sense Vivid Voltage on or Champions Path on.
I look at Modern as just a lot of this is just sealed product plays, like let the market work itself out for all the grading fees. And then eventually when all that happens, like then people would just put premiums to these boxes. But like you just said, all this modern stuff, all these modern sets, the pull rates in this, in order to actually pull the card you want, it's going to be so hard. But that sealed product will always have a premium. But that's the whole thing. It's like, you can't be picking up this modern product with any sort of sealed collectible investability aspect to it at any sort of inflated prices. You have to really try hard to pick up modern at the absolute bottom. And
there's no rush on those sets.
No, definitely not.
And I'm not saying that there'll never be a time that I would buy them. I picked up the booster boxes at like $72 a piece. I picked up the Evolving Skies at like 96. I bought a case at 96. I think it was probably worth it at 96 because I think
I got my Chillin' Rain at 79, so you even beat me there. So
yeah, so I bought all the other ones at about 72. I think the Fusion Strike I paid like 81. I only bought 2. I just wanted a couple.
Yeah, I haven't even bought Fusion Strike yet.
Yeah, because that one just was always more expensive. We might see some other waves that could push it down. Who knows? But it's just one of these things that, and Poke Knowledge and I are pretty similar, I think, in terms of our patience, and we don't, it's the long game. It's fun. Like there's no rush, and there's so many things to buy. There's so many options. And so do not put lots of money in baby shinies because they're the best thing, right? Understand. And I already wouldn't buy anymore. I'll just be completely honest with you. I have not bought any in 3 weeks because I don't like the prices anymore, just to be completely honest. But everyone needs to make the decisions for yourself. Like I'm going to place my bets. I think certain things here or there, but I'm also diversifying. I'm buying WotC hollows and WotC first edition stuff, and I'm looking for PSA 10s, and none are coming up, and I still want to buy some, and I'm looking for these cards, and they're gone. So
I look for a lot of stuff that's definitely way more niche, like Nintendo stuff, and a lot of these sets. This stuff doesn't gum up all the time. Like people think it comes up, it doesn't. It never comes up. And but this is the thing too, is we're running into this real weird timeline now where some of the stuff I'm acquiring, like Diamond and Pearl bulk, stuff like that, like Diamond and Pearl, I'm like, you know what? I never see Diamond and Pearl collections ever come up. So when they do come up, let me just acquire whatever I can. Yeah. The problem is where I could be running into the issue where everybody out there needs to understand it's not just about constantly acquiring, is there's a good chance that maybe Diamond and Pearl never becomes a thing where people never want to pick up Diamond and Pearl. Maybe not. I mean, we're already seeing like a lot of buying pressure get dumped into level X's recently, but like Jake was mentioning, he bought level X's when they were very cheap. I went after prime cards. I went after level X's too. But the problem is now is people, you have to constantly be adapting too. Just like when Jake was buying level X cards when they were really cheap, once the market shifted and they started being expensive, it was just okay, the market has shifted. Now I need to find something else that's undervalued. It's a constant game. Like it's not like you just buy one thing and you stick buying that forever, because if that's the case, then you pick the wrong winner because it never went up. You just have to and that's the thing about the Pokemon market is there's so many niches between sets and products, things that went up, things that went down. You have to constantly be adapting nonstop.
And I have buy it now prices for level X's for me that I buy them now, and they're much higher than $12 to $15 when I was buying them before. So I do adapt. Like those cards should be worth a lot more. They should have been worth a lot more than 12 to 15 when I was buying them. But particularly in this market, they should be worth, I don't think $150, $200 is crazy. at all for these cards, given how few are now coming back. Now, the whole demand piece, sure, if Pokemon is successful and you really believe that, and we don't know, the Diamond and Pearl era is going to be one of the earliest eras in Pokemon. Like when we get into 20 generations, 25 generations, of different Pokemon cards, you're talking in the first 4 or 5 generations of sets here. You're talking in the first, even so far, 7, 8, 9, we're still talking about in the first half. And we can compare and look at Magic, like how some of those early-ish, middle type booster box. It's very different because there's not much market for graded cards, certainly for those sets, and the booster boxes largely have a lot of price, not because of people can grade premium cards from them, but because people like to draft and re-experience old sets. Very, very different situation, but there's a lot of upside. And I think where people get hung up, and I think where people got hung up on my channel a lot, is I was warning people a lot and saying, first of all, I was saying buy nothing at all. I, repeated for 8 months that I'm not buying any Pokemon cards. The only Pokemon cards I was buying were world stamped promos. That was literally the only cards I bought for like 8 months that I believed had any value or made any sense to buy. But I was also the whole time trying to explain to people, particularly the modern, like, people were so stonky on like Vivid Voltage and evolutions and, particularly the graded cards, and just trying to explain how much of that was going to come back, that vintage was not guaranteed to come down like it did. I was scared at how quickly it went up, and I was really terrified, and I was scared at the mentality and the stonkiness, and I certainly felt like it was going to go down. I certainly knew Unlimited base set was going to tank, because I knew how much was going to be greater, and I knew the first editions commons and uncommons were going to tank. I was not as sure about the holos, because I didn't think there was going to be a tremendous flood of 9s and 10s, and there hasn't been. There's been a definite steady stream, certainly less 10s, but a steady stream of 9s from a lot of these sets. But evolutions, Hidden Fates, these sets are getting bombarded with supply, and they tanked, because not just because the Pokemon market overall went down, but there are people, I'm getting contacted constantly with people just trying to liquidate their CGC slabs at like $8 to $10 a slab. I have some people that I paid $12 a slab just to be nice, and I shouldn't have bought them, honestly. I probably overpaid by $1 or $2, but just getting rid of their Shining Fates, Hidden Fates slabs, because there's just endless amounts of them right now, and that's the best they can do for the foreseeable future. Those will be the best prices, and there's just going to be more and more supply of those.
Now, let me ask you a question. I already bashed on CGC earlier in the chat, but when PSA comes around, do you see CGC being even an alternative for anything? So are they an alternative for anything that you can grade at PSA? So I don't care about error cards. I don't care about like one-off stuff that CGC is willing to grade.
Yeah.
Assuming PSA grades it, is CGC even an option in the future? Does it make any sense?
I have no idea. I'm definitely like, I think that if the hobby grows a lot, there could easily be room for multiple grading companies. And, I like CGC. I think it's nice having an option that does subgrades, for people. And I think that they can, gain some sort of, maybe they're obviously they have some of the niches where they talk about the errors. They actually label gray stamp, the number, they actually label the errors on it, that I think is cool, and somewhat niche. And then I think CGC is really going to make a really hard play for Weiss, for Metazoa, for FAB, for Yu-Gi-Oh, for Dragon Ball Super, because I think markets that are not as firmly established with PSA.
I think they've already like inadvertently lost that Pokemon market. And if you notice, a lot of the other trading card games, they're giving out 10s way more easier than they are like modern cards. And this is the thing, like where I struggle with CGC is because I wanted CGC to do so well. I was like all about CGC before I even graded a car with them, because I thought like they would be a good, like, you know, competition, the PSA, because for us as a collector, competition's good. Like we don't want PSA to be king and be able to charge whatever they want and do whatever they want and have terrible customer service and not have to change anything. Like we as the consumer, we do not want that. So I wanted CGC to come out and be stronger, but they kind of just, I don't know. It, in my opinion, they just dropped the ball too hard.
Mhm.
You seen any other good questions in the chat?
Yeah, I'm more positive on CGC and PSA than most people are these days. It seems like I give them a lot more slack than most people. You know, I think it's growing pains, and I think they're important to the hobby, and I enjoy grading cards. So it's you know, it's I'm glad they exist, and I think it's fun. You know, I do think you have to be careful, and I do think that I mean, the rattle videos and just like the, you know, I mean, the mistake, like them not like they like, and I think we talked about it before, but like authenticity needs to be first and foremost.
Oh, yeah.
And then once you like master authenticity, then it's about getting the grades as accurate. You know, you obviously really have to get those grades accurate as well. And, you know, there's always going to be some error, and it is what it is.
If anybody's got a question, feel free.
What I tell people though is that if you buy a card ungraded, it's more likely to be fake than if you buy a graded card. Now the graded cards still might be fake because they're screwing up, but it's certainly more likely real.
Yeah, and especially with like but now that maybe this is where that authenticity guarantee for any cards, and they dropped the price. I want to say, don't, maybe, you know, 350 raw now. The eBay authenticity guarantee, what's the price now at that? I know they just dropped it. It was like 700.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Kevin Clare said computer grading is the future. Human graders are subjective. Yeah, but you know what? I'm okay with a little bit of subjectivity, you know?
Yeah, we'll see how all that goes. Really
Jamie Scott said, well, at least CGC doesn't have scandals in their past like PSA. What are you talking about, man? They graded all those stolen cards. That was a huge scandal. Ancient Muse said, did I ever get my Hypno back? I did.
So, I mean, people making some smart comments on like the hard part about with modern is like what is actually going to have demand. So if even if some of these cards, like the supply doesn't overwhelm us, like will they matter? Will they have demand? And that's where, for me, really want to focus in on what are going to be the key cards of that era, and then what are going to be the key Pokemon of that era. Clearly, the key Pokemon of every era are going to be the most popular ones that are the most popular ones of all time, but particularly the ones that are unique, the legendaries, the mythicals for that specific era, in my opinion. First appearances of those key cards. And I agree, you know, someone made a comment here. I agree. I think like the gold shinies for Sword and Shield makes sense. You know, I think to me, it's a little bit unclear. I mean, we have to understand about the Sun and Moon Rainbow rares is they're the rarest cards in the hobby in terms of pull rate. Like there are no cards. Now, I'm not sure about the alt arts. How many alt arts? It'd be interesting to see if the pull rates on the alt arts for some of these sets that have lots of art arts compared to like your Burning Shadows Charizard. I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head, but certainly at the time in Sun and Moon, it was a big deal that they added these significantly, like extremely hard to pull cards. You know, that just didn't exist before. Because again, although secret rares were hard to pull, they only had like 3 secret rares or 4 secret rares or something like that. They wouldn't have 12, 13. Now, I'm not sure the pull rates on like the SL set in like a plasma.
Yeah.
Like what was like, there might be a few kind of one-off examples because there are a number of them in that are pretty difficult to pull each one. I don't know it off the top of my head, but overall in a whole generation, you know, it's significant.
I don't know what those
really
pull rates were.
they've got to go to either serialized or at least like a case hit, go to the Yu-Gi-Oh sort of ghost rare case hit situation eventually. And that'll be a huge deal.
Oh, it will, price wise, it will be a huge deal. I'm hoping they don't do that anytime soon. I do believe that eventually Pokemon will do that whole serialized thing, but right now they don't need to. I feel like they need to keep that in their back pocket for whenever demand drops and everything and weans, then you could pull that one out.
Yeah.
But can you imagine like a 1-on-1 Charizard or something? Like the market would lose its mind.
It'll be, I mean, if the Spider-Man like Marvel PMG sold for 230 some $1,000, I can only imagine what a 1-of-1, and that was like a 1 of 10. I can only imagine what a 1-of-1 Charizard would sell for. First ever in Pokemon history hobby.
Oh, it'd be crazy. I tell you, I would be a seller for that card. I would not be a buyer. I could promise you that much.
What do you think? 5 million?
No, that's too much. I
I'm not
think
sure. Truly.
what's the most expensive card in the hobby? Like the
True
PSA 9 Illustrator Pikachu, right?
A true 1-of-1. I don't know. First ever, only one of its kind. I don't know.
It's hard because I keep wanting to think about baseball, and or how much baseball, basketball, how much are these 101 selling for? And
And those suck compared to this in terms of rare, like because those, it's like they have a bunch of 1-of-1s of each rookie. They're not if they did a bunch of 1-of-1 Charizards, it would greatly dilute the value. But if they had just 1-of-1 Charizard, so it's the only 1-of-1 Charizard in existence.
my fear is, I mean, there's that, man, it could be like a $3 million card.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's all just random speculation,
Yeah,
but
but are there a lot of buyers in this hobby that have that kind of money though?
Steve Aoki would just buy it. Logan Paul, Steve Aoki would buy it.
Yeah, you would really just need two people.
Yeah,
Two
I mean,
people that really wanted it and had a lot of money.
yeah, and I know a couple other people, big influencers who certainly have 5 to 10 million. I would say probably, that they could spend on something like that. But and then I honestly, it would probably just get bought by a sports card collector like Shine or something, or a bunch of silent people who are bigger, or it would get bought by a fractionalization company. I mean, there's all sorts of companies or people would come together and buy it together, right?
Yeah. So speaking of coming together, did another Snap Magic card hit the market already? Do you know?
There one? I haven't heard.
I thought I heard a rumor that there was. Maybe that's not right.
Could be. I'm not
Uh,
like super plugged into that at the moment.
Let's see. Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
checking IE every day at the moment. I got other things I'm looking at.
So I'm smoking 618 said I'm surprised they gave a 5 for binder ding. I don't know if somebody's talking, but they always, yeah, once you have a binder ding, man, it's 6 or below automatically. Like it drops quick. That's like one thing PSA will really get you at. If you had a binder ding, I'd say you're probably better off going to like a CGC.
Yeah.
Reek said, good question. Where is the special delivery Zard and why haven't we seen the buyers of the few leaked ones sell? That's a good question. Probably because Pokemon came and knocked on their door. Probably.
What would a PSA 10 no rarity Charizard go for nowadays? A crap ton. I don't know. I would imagine it would sell for, there's a decent chance it would sell for more than the PSA 10 first edition Charizard. There is a decent chance due to the rarity. I know one dude is looking.
So Jamie Scott said, so is Metazoa over or how's that going? It never really started, man. It's not. It's over. It's over. Pack it in.
So I'm a big fan of Metazoa. I really enjoy it, but I don't talk about the market side of it. But just as a personal thing, I enjoy it. But as you can see, I enjoy a ton of TCGs. so it's just one thing that's fun. It's new. It's fun.
Yeah. Basic Trainer said Japanese exclusives post 2015 Mario Luigi Team Rocket cases or master battle sets, do they have a sustainable floor and higher ceilings? Are they safer buys today? Future projections. I think they have floors. I think there would be, if like the, say like a Mario Luigi Pikachu box sealed started dropping down in price with the cards that are inside and just the artwork on the boxes and stuff. I think there would be a lot of buying pressure for those things on the way down. I think there's a lot of people have been priced out of those who maybe would have wanted them. I think the people that wanted them already got them, but there would be buying pressure on the way down for those that didn't get it. Now, what are the higher potentials? I don't know, man. I think a lot of those are super overpriced, in my opinion. But it's tough too because you're looking at like fan favorites, right? You got like Pikachu, and then you got Mario, you got Luigi. Like, I mean, Pokemon did those right. I wish they came to English. They never did.
Yeah, I've never been a huge fan of those. Personally, as a collector, I way prefer the Team Rocket case. But as far as like which one do I think is more investable or has a wider, broader appeal, I think it's the the Mario Luigi Pikachu. So if I had to guess, and this is just, this opinion matters basically nothing, but if I had to guess, I would say, because it's just not really based on anything, I personally believe that those are unlikely to collapse, just like PK, that there would be. I completely agree with his analysis. I think that there's a lot of people who still want them, and there'd be a lot of people buying them up as they were going down as a collector, not just as a stonker.
Yeah.
I also do not think they have a high ceiling at all. Like, I think that like, I do not see those exploding in price. I could see WotC PSA 10 first editions exploding in price. I would have a really hard time seeing those explode in price, but I could easily be wrong. I'm already surprised at how expensive they are. So I just think that there are a ton of them. And yeah, it's
I
it's
think we,
yeah.
yeah. And I don't want to jump too far from the Mario question, but what you were just saying, like how you can see first edition cards jump in price, like base set, I could definitely see that happen. And the reason why I'm looking at what are cards on the highest end doing? So you got the new sale, assuming that it's real for the Illustrator Pikachu 900,000. Your next like big set card is the Charizard first edition 240. How far out of the realm of impossible is it to see another six-figure card? So really you're talking Blastoise or Venusaur for one of those to hit 100 grand in a PSA 10. How far out of the realm of impossible is that? I wouldn't say it's super far out. Now, it's going to take a little bit to get there, but when that happens, the trickle down effect for nines, especially because nines right now for first edition are super undervalued across the board. When you think about like, what is the 10 sell for versus the 9? There could be an explosion in price there. I could definitely see that as being a possibility. Subro said, do you think VMAX Climax will be worth investing for the next couple of years? I feel like they printed 1 billion boxes. Dude, if you bought that stuff at release on the first day, you had a good connection, you got it for $70 a box or whatever they sold for at release, like you'll probably do fine. If you picked it up right after the second reprint, super cheap, keep it sealed, probably do fine. Now, would I put my money some other places? Probably. But I'll tell you what, though, one thing I've noticed more and more, I don't know about you, Jake, is for every like one vintage question I get on some of these live streams, I get like 2 modern. People are super bullish still on modern. I don't know if that's like a
There's a lot of interest in modern for sure, but it's also it's more affordable, and there's more of a belief that it could still go up a lot more. I think, vintage is very expensive and it's already gone up a lot in many cases. And I do think when you look at a set like that, you think to yourself, well, Pokekayun and CP6, CP6 went from, $70 or $50 or whatever to 2,500. 3,000, so it's like, can this, do that too? Or can this even do like 1/10 as good and it's still going to be an amazing investment? And I think what I say to people is that those did so unbelievably well. And although these are very different and these were printed, probably a lot more, and a lot more people are keeping them sealed in the West. They're not just sitting, there's such a huge margin there. Like those made so much that you've got to think that if you're buying them at 70, it's not a bad buy for sealed. Like you have to think that, like, now, as you said, I completely agree. It's just not where I'm parking a lot of money. But do I have a couple? Yeah. I think buying a couple of each of those things is perfectly sensible. Is right now the best time to buy? Not a terrible time to buy that. I think, a lot of it's out there right now. There's a lot of, there's a decent amount of negativity on it. It's okay. It's not, there's a lot of things though that I think are good buys right now. To me, this is a good buying time, with the caveat that we could have tremendous macroeconomic world events, and then we could enter in a really good buying time. This is not a time where I would sell my stock, or I would sell anything else, or I would risk anything, but I would slowly, kind of patiently buy things. That's what I'm doing. So, and I can only, again, we're not financial advisors here. These are just our opinions, but it's sort of, it's what I think.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying they don't see Blastoise or Venusaur hitting 6 figures before something low pop like Chansey. Yeah, I mean, Chansey's a tough 10, that's why. Ancient Muse said, yo, just look at those Altar Evolution boxes. They are prime and definitely a good play. Yeah, all right. So sets, sure, we'll talk a little modern. I like those boxes. I like them as plays in the future. But again, it all comes down to, like, just because I like it doesn't mean it's going to be good. I look at both those promos in the future from the Jolteon, Vaporeon, Flareon, like premium collection boxes. You get you get the one VMAX, you get the one alternative art. I'm like, okay, if PSA drops down to $10 grading, like, are these cards potential, especially like the alt art ones? Can I make $35 on this card at a PSA 10 when the dust settles? I go, yeah, maybe. And then I look at the other one. I say, okay, can I make $20 on this one? Maybe. It's tough,
Yeah.
As long as you don't have like crazy high expectations where you're like, oh, I'm going to buy this box and it's going to be 300. Well, is that possible? Sure, anything's possible in this hobby. I mean, you look at a lot of box. I mean, look at some of these, like, what's the one box? It was like one of the boxes that was just full of like evolution packs that you could have picked up at Walmart. It was like one of the sealed collection boxes. Mm-hmm. Whoever would have thought that box would be worth a couple $100? So it's hard to say.
Yeah. You could pick up a little bit of everything, throw it in the closet like a lot of people are doing. And I think a lot of people will not be able to keep it sealed. And so you have that going for you if you really can keep it sealed. A lot of people will just open it eventually.
I think depending on what you're keeping sealed too, like those boxes, they're big. They're not going to be great to store. You're probably going to like stack them up, put them in a cardboard box, and then that cardboard box is going to take up even more room. I think where a lot of people are going to break down products is stuff like that, and they're going to kind of cannibalize it just to make it smaller. Yeah. Like that's one thing nice about a booster box. That's 36 packs that you could very easily store, opposed to a collection box that's this big that might have a giant promo in it, a promo card, and 4 packs like evenly spread out throughout the thing. It's like, all right, that's a lot of room. Or tins and stuff like that. You ever try storing tins, man? Tins suck to store.
I have, I don't know, 20 tins, maybe, not too many.
Yeah, and you got what, between 3 to 5 packs in each one of those tins, it's like, yeah, they don't store fantastic.
Yeah, they take up a lot of space. I got these tins from DBZ as well, from Score, that are take up a lot of space. They have like 3 packs on them. They're cool because they're like old vintage tins and they look cool, but yeah, they're not great in terms of the packs.
Yeah.
I think I got about 10 minutes left in me tonight.
Sure.
Yeah,
we could even go 5 more minutes. I'm pretty tired too.
But we will absolutely do this, again soon.
So if anybody, now's your time. You get to be the last question of the night.
Yeah, we'll do 5 to 10 more minutes.
Pokemon Breeder Max says, if sealed modern products maintain price points, I think EX and Diamond and Pearler will go up a lot in price because it's just never been balanced since 2020. Kid Turi said he's starting to complete a binder collection of base set 4th prints. Something about lighter shading on the cards is really nice. So I don't know a lot about the 2000 print cards. So I haven't seen enough to be able to tell you if like the coloring is different or not. Sub-Rose.
Yeah, fourth print's cool. Be interesting to see.
Sub-Bro said the crazy thing about the market is I've noticed most modern sets that go up are the ones that don't get reprinted, like Team Up. That's going for more than $800 yet. There's only one main card. I would disagree with that. Team Up's got a lot of good cards in it. Team Up's a really good set, actually.
I think all of those sets are fire. Like there's so many good like rainbow rares in those sets, and full arts. I think the full arts are nice looking too. Just the regular full arts. So yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm tired, Jake. It's been fun.
So
I just want to say thank you to have me on this channel again. I always have fun just chatting Pokemon. For everybody else out there, just a shameless plug for myself. I'm Jake. Will put a link to my channel down in the description after this is over. But Poke Knowledge Cards, feel free to give me a subscribe. I appreciate it.
Yeah, please go do that. Subscribe to my channel, like the video. If you can support me on Patreon, we do monthly, for those who don't know, we do monthly live Zoom meetings, as well as you get access to a private Discord with about 250 people, 260 people or so. That is, we're constantly talking market. We're doing late night, chats, hanging out, all sorts of things. It helps support this. People are saying, I do own some cards and some product. This is some of the sealed product, and I'm mainly, for those who don't know, I'm mainly a graded card and binder card collector. Has always been my main focus, but I like booster boxes, and particularly from other things outside of Pokemon, actually. But yeah, it's they make fun display pieces. Eventually, I will display some of my graded cards as well. You'll see them around, and I have like a case where I can put those cards in and hang it up on the wall. So I'll figure out a setup eventually.
I gotta go, Jake. It was good talking to you, though. I'll talk to you later.
Good night. Have a good night.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
All right. Everyone have a great night. Thank you all for watching, for hanging out. As always, really appreciate it. And I will see you all again soon. I think I'll probably try to do a couple more videos this next week. I got some great guests coming up. Got a couple 99-cent donations. Appreciate that. I will we have some guests, some people who've been on the channel before but have not been on in a long while, which will be cool. Some well-known people from the community. We'll have a nice little roundtable discussion. It'll be great to have them on. So hopefully that's coming probably be a few weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks, and then in the interim we'll just be doing more of the same sort of stuff. So yeah, just appreciate the continued support, and I hope everyone has a great night and a great weekend. Be